This boy was struck by a spear. His name was Han Maru. He was an unemployed failure who had failed the exam 4 times. One day in the forest, a spear pierced his body. A monster leaped in to deliver the final bite, but Han Maru bit back with savage force. He devoured it to survive. This world is being invaded by monsters and demons. But after that day, whenever he sees a monster, he feels the urge to devour it, an insane hunger that makes him grow stronger through his wild evolution. The scene is set in a restricted area where yellow dust covers a suspicious camp. Amidst the smoke, someone gasps for air, showing that something bad has just happened. We see a man sitting in shock, surrounded by several bodies scattered on the forest floor. Desperate, he realizes the yellow dust isn't normal as there's something inside it. Suddenly, sinister silhouette emerges from the trees, staring at the sole survivor. The figure then reveals a giant blade still covered in the blood of the other victims. The sound of small bells attached to the weapon echoes, further heightening the tension. Completely terrified, the young man holds out his hand begging for someone to help him get out. But the creature charges at high speed, running toward him without any hesitation. With absurd strength, the monster's hand grabs the young man's leg with all its might. He is lifted into the air with no chance to fight back, screaming in pain and terror. Then his body is hurled away, disappearing into the dark woods. Sometime later, the young man is seen lifeless, and a voice comments what a shame it was. A trio appears, observing the body, and one of them says he shouldn't have been there. They then begin to analyze the scene, preparing to register another fatality. Officer Kong notices the dust stirring, sensing that the danger is not over yet. With that, the air around the trio grows heavy and the dust begins to churn. Quickly, she slips her hand inside her shirt as if to grab something. It was a strange segmented knife which she holds skillfully between her fingers. Then, without a second thought, the officer makes a deep cut in the palm of her hand. She spreads her own blood across the blade. The knife begins to tremble and pulse, reacting bizarrely to contact with the blood. Kong feels an intense pain, wincing as the activation process takes place. Suddenly, her colleague screams and points, warning that the monster was right there. The creature approaches slowly, making a terrifying sound with each step. But Kong turns confidently and tells her partners that she'll handle this herself. The small knife then transforms into a giant sword that emits a reddish glow. It's revealed that they are from the Ministry of the Environment's Yellow Dust Task Force. The scene then shifts to a massive building in a bustling urban center. We see a sign pointing to the interview location for new civil servants. In the waiting room, the interviewer calls for number 12 and our protagonist raises his hand. But the scene cuts to the bathroom where he vents that he feels like he's dying. He just wants to go home, his heart feeling like it's about to burst from anxiety. The young man then clutches his chest, thinking he won't be able to get through this interview. Next, he goes to the sink and splashes water on his face to try and pull himself together. But even so, he's still sweating and panting, his tie all crooked, and he screams that he can't take it anymore. He takes out a bottle of pills but complains that not even an extra dose is working. After composing himself a little, he looks in the mirror, still visibly shaken. Outside, a small bird lands on a branch enjoying the sunny day. The bird then turns head and stares directly at the young man through the window. When their eyes meet, the reflection in the bird's eyes leaves him completely shocked. The bird transforms and asks what he's looking at, warning him that he's screwed. Terrified, he leans on the sink and curses his terrible panic attacks. In the background, the local TV news reports on the disappearance of youths in Gangwon province. Looking at a vending machine, he introduces himself as Maru Han, trying to build up courage. It's explained that he's 29 years old and an ordinary guy struggling to find a job. After 4 failed attempts, this is his 5th time trying to pass the exam. A woman then calls him for the interview, announcing his name and number. He jumps out of his chair excitedly, shouting that he's present and ready to start. Full of determination, the young man clenches his fist and vows he will pass this time. Repeating to himself that he can do it, he marches confidently toward the room. But inside, an interviewer stares at him with a serious, intimidating expression. Seeing this, Maru swallows hard, feeling all his nervousness rush back. The man asks the first question, wanting to know why he wants to be a civil servant. Maru replies with a forced smile that his desire is to give back to the community. But inside, all he can think about is the stability and security of a quiet, boring life. The interviewer then asks what he would do if his boss did something wrong. He replies that he would be honest, but his mind screams that he'd pretend not to see anything. The man jots something down and finally asks how he usually deals with people. He replies that he gets along with everyone, but his mind screams that he's terrible communicating. The interviewer is confused and asks him to repeat what he just said. Desperate, Maru realizes he might have spoken his thoughts out loud. The man then coughs to break the tension, announcing he'll ask the last question. He asks Maru to talk about the greatest difficulty he's ever faced in his life. Nervously, Maru thinks that the most difficult moment is being in this interview right now, but the interviewer insists, explaining he just wants to see how he handles problems. Maru feels awkward and says the only thing he remembers is a specific situation. He begins to tell a story about the time he went to the mountains with his father. A quick flashback shows a young Maru in a tense reddish setting. Back in the present, the young man feels a chill down his spine as he relives the memory. He remembers a dark creature with an eye glowing in the darkness. His face contorts in pure panic as if he were seeing the monster all over again. The image of a silhouette with dozens of pulsing eyes floods his mind. The memory ends with him as a child surrounded by bodies and horrific creatures. He sits frozen in his chair, completely lost in his traumatic memories. A sharp sound echoes in his mind and his eyes widen in pure panic. With that, the chair begins to fall. At that moment, Maru's vision starts to blur and everything around him sways. The man calls his name, concerned to see he was not well at all. Maru then faints in the chair and the interviewer desperately tries to wake him up. With the shock, he feels a wave of nausea, nearly throwing everything up. The scene changes to later, showing the simple building where Maru rents an apartment. He's seen sprawled on his bed, feeling like a complete disaster after the interview. Crying, he laments having no job and no friends, not knowing what to do with his life. But suddenly, someone knocks on the door, interrupting his moment of venting. He opens the door carefully and asks who it is, his face still puffy. On the other side, a giant, intimidating man appears, leaving Maru terrified. The man then yells furiously, asking why he wasn't answering the phone. Maru asks his mom what she's doing there since she's supposed to be at work. She explains she just stopped by to drop off some food, which comes at a perfect time. All excited, the young man asks with a smile if she brought any meat dishes, but his mom replies that it's just kimchi and beans, instantly killing his joy. Then she looks around, noticing her son's apartment is not tidy at all. We see leftover food and many drink cans scattered in the corner of the room. Maru feels embarrassed as he knows his place looks like a total pigsty. His mother starts tidying up and takes the opportunity to ask how the interview went. Hearing that, the young man throws himself on the floor, completely defeated just by the memory. He panics, thinking he can't tell her he threw up on the interviewer. His mother just stands there, waiting for him to gather the courage to answer. To cheer him up, she gives him a hard slap on the back and tells him not to worry about it. Maru complains about the pain while his mom continues to clean up the mess in his room. Next, she hands him an envelope saying it's some allowance to help out. At this, Maru gets emotional and starts sniffling, grateful for her support. He tries to refuse the money, saying he's an adult and doesn't need her help, but his mother insists with a firm look and he ends up taking the envelope. Then she mentions that maybe the shaman she visited was right about the interview. With a serious look, his mom warns that he needs to visit the mountain as soon as possible. Maru is completely confused, just staring at the money as he tries to process the order. The scene then shifts to a port town with several boats docked at the pier. We see Maru there, stretching after a long and tiring journey to the location. He sighs, thinking about how many years have passed since he was last there. With that, the young man starts walking toward the base of the mountain surrounding the town. It's explained that his mother consulted a famous shaman about his employment problems. The psychic revealed that the cause wasn't his panic attacks or his ADHD. The real problem was his father, who had disappeared over 20 years ago. The shaman said his father died on that mountain and that his soul was blocking his path. The only way to pass the exam was to go back there and make an offering to appease the spirit. After climbing the trail, he finally reaches a gate and realizes this is the place. He pushes the old gate, which creaks slowly as it swings fully open. At that moment, his eyes widen as he sees a scene from his past right before him. The scene shifts, showing his younger self standing in the middle of the yard. The boy then runs toward the house, passing by his adult self. Reaching the door, he opens it. Carefully, he peeks through a crack looking for someone inside the house. Inside, he sees his father huddled in a dark corner seemingly in great pain. In another moment, a young Maru opens the door to look outside. He stands on the threshold patiently waiting for his father to come home soon. In the memory, the boy would call for him, saying he was hungry but was ignored. Suddenly, his father's face begins to contort, letting out a strange groan. His face disappears into the shadows, and only 2 empty white eyes glow in the dark. And then he opens his mouth in a terrifying scream. Back in the present, Maru stares at the empty house, still disturbed by the memories. His shadow projected on the ground brings back the feeling of dread from that day. He feels the same tightness in his chest that he saw his father feel, like a bad omen. With his hand on his heart, he realizes a panic attack is about to start. He tries to control his breathing, but a cold sweat is already trickling down his face. Determined, he decides to make the offering quickly and pulls a bottle from his backpack. With that, he fills a cup with a drink, preparing to start the ritual. Maru throws the liquid and tells his father he's only there because his mother insisted. He throws more of the drink and says he'll pray to the mountain spirits just in case. In a sad tone, he vents that his father simply left and abandoned them. Maru throws the rest of the cup on the ground, asking for help to get a job. Dust begins to rise from the ground as he walks away from the old house. Suddenly, he notices the yellow dust in the air and finds it very strange. Thinking it's a fire, he decides to head down quickly because safety comes first. But the phrase safety first echoes in a very sinister way through the air. Maru stops and looks back, finding it odd to have heard an echo of sorts. At that moment, the yellow dust churns as if something were moving within it. A silhouette of a warrior emerges from the mist, taking slow steps toward him. Maru turns his head, trying to figure out where the sound of footsteps is coming from. Then, a green bamboo staff emerges from the smoke. Getting closer and closer, the creature reveals itself. A bizarre monster that repeats the word safety first. He rubs his eyes hard, unable to believe what he's seeing. Terrified, he wonders if he's having another hallucination, not understanding what it is. The monster ignores his panic and continues walking toward him. Sensing that something is very wrong, he decides he needs to get out of there right now. But as he turns to escape, something hits him square in the chest. The bamboo has pierced through his body, and he looks down, disbelieving the wound. With that, he falls to his knees, spitting up blood and groaning in agony. In his final moments, he wonders if this is really how he's going to die. He thinks about how he never really lived, but dying would be a relief from his debts. With a final breath, he laments that life is a joke and no one will even care. But then, he remembers his mother, all the sacrifice and love she gave him. In a flash of memory, her image hits him and he screams her name in desperation. He grinds his teeth as a new wave of anger and the will to live surges through him. Staggering, he fights with all his remaining strength to get back on his feet. Enduring the pain, he rips the bamboo from his chest and screams that he can't die yet. Seeing his defiance, the creature snarls, preparing to attack again. The monster then lunges forward with its giant tongue, whipping it through the air toward him. In a gruesome voice, the creature repeats that safety must come first. Then it opens its mouth in a deafening roar, revealing a green light inside. Maru's eyes go wide, completely shocked by what he's seeing. It was a glowing green staring intently at him from inside the monster's mouth. Without giving him time to think, the creature grabs him, ready to devour him. But Maru resists with all his might, screaming and pushing the monster away. The monster then bites down hard on his arm, making a horrific sound of tearing flesh. Maru lets out a desperate scream of pain, feeling the creature's teeth sink into his skin. The pain is so intense, he feels like he's going to pass out, his strength suddenly draining away. But the memory of his father returns, along with the same strange moan he heard in his childhood. His father's shadowy figure appears again with those white, completely empty eyes. And in his mind, he hears his father yelling at him to eat like a bizarre command. With his eyes rolled back, Maru lets out a savage roar filled with hatred and pure fury. In an act of desperation, he bites down on the monster's neck with all his strength. He rips out a chunk of the creature and blood flies everywhere in the brutal struggle. As it's devoured, the monster's eye opens again, but now it's inside Maru. The eye stares straight ahead as if searching for something. Suddenly, the pupil begins to pulse and expand bizarrely. Black spots spread across the iris as if something is corrupting the eye. Darkness takes over and the eye is completely consumed by a shadowy force. Maru's consciousness is thrown into a strange place full of twisted shapes. Bodies and creatures merge, creating a scene of pure chaos and despair. A demonic warrior emerges from the confusion, fighting against hordes of monsters. Two green eyes then appear in the darkness, watching the massacre intently. The warrior continues his slaughter, destroying everything in his path. A mysterious voice calls him back, but he doesn't understand who is speaking. Lost in the darkness, he thinks he's already dead and feels a horrible taste in his mouth. Another voice calls to him, and he realizes someone is trying to communicate. A blinding white light appears out of nowhere, taking the shape of an eye. And suddenly, he wakes up to see two people staring at him curiously. Maru wakes up on the forest floor, completely dazed and confused about what happened. Startled, he gets up and sees two people staring at him, surprised to be alive. He looks around and desperately asks where the monster and the yellow dust are. The man grabs him and demands he repeat what he said about seeing a monster. Maru then explains that the dust appeared and a monster attacked him right in the stomach. But when he touches the spot, he realizes the wound is gone, which is very strange. The two then look at each other suspiciously, trying to understand how that could be possible. The man mentions that a knackle alert went off yesterday, but he thought it was a mistake. Maru lifts his shirt and confirms there's nothing there, and the man says it's impossible. The woman explains that even with the monster's blood, he wouldn't be able to use the powers right away. The agent grows thoughtful, trying to piece together this bizarre puzzle. Maru then gets up and dusts off his clothes, and the man calls out to him. He points and asks directly if the young man remembers what happened yesterday. Maru is confused by the question and checks his pocket for his phone to see the time. Seeing it's past 1 in the afternoon, he screams, realizing he missed his interview. He panics when he realizes he was passed out in the forest for an entire day. The agent figures he must have survived and absorbed the knackle's powers, but he ignores his partner and says Maru will learn in time just like all of them. The man then grabs Maru's shoulder, stopping him from leaving. With a smile, he invites the young man to join them since the timing is perfect. Maru doesn't understand the offer, but the agent says they'll get him a change of clothes first. The scene shifts to a small town with simple houses and narrow streets. They arrive at a government building with a South Korean flag on its facade. A banner on the wall indicates a special civil service event, and the main poster announces a welcome orientation for new members. Maru appears in new clothes with a look on his face like he has no idea what's going on. He's sitting in a room full of people, all well-dressed and serious-looking. The young man looks around, still processing the unexpected situation. He wonders why the hell he's at an orientation for special civil servants. He doesn't understand why he was brought here or what these people want. He bites his nails nervously, thinking everyone in this place is weird and scary. Suddenly, the door bursts open and the sound of heels echoes through the room. A woman with long nails and a very intimidating presence approaches the podium. She introduces herself as the deputy director and welcomes them to the special civil service. At that, Maru raises his hand trying to say that something was wrong. With an awkward smile, he explains that he thinks he's in the wrong place and apologizes. But the director denies it and congratulates him, saying he's enlisting today. The young man is in shock as he never applied for this type of service. She ignores his confusion and continues her speech about the work at the ministry. Then the woman explains that the job is top secret and no one can know about it. Any leak of information will be treated as a violation of the National Security Act. Hearing that, Maru turns pale, realizing this is much more serious than he thought. The director reveals that all the rookies there have received powers from a knackle monster. Maru tries to say he never did that, but a memory starts to come back. In a flash, he remembers biting the monster and understands everything. She explains that luckily, the knackle only appear in uninhabited mountains. But when they do, the yellow dust also appears with levels from 1 to 10. The higher the dust level, the stronger and more dangerous the monster in that area is. Just then, the director calls for Eden Seonwoo, and a young man in a suit raises his hand. She praises him for acquiring the powers of a level 7 knackle. The young man bows and thanks her, promising to do his best in his new role. The director then picks up her clipboard to continue the roll call for the new recruits. She then calls for Maru and asks what power he got from the knackle. Awkwardly, he replies that he doesn't know of any power with a very forced smile. Next to him, the level 7 guy scoffs at him, laughing in a really annoying way. Maru gets furious, thinking he's laughing because he's stronger. But he decides it doesn't matter as he just wants to find a way out of there. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares in the room, startling everyone. With a wicked smile, the director announces it's a knackle alert at the perfect time. The scene cuts to a forest where the group of rookies runs toward the danger. The director shouts that this is their chance to show their powers and tells them all to head up. But Maru just walks aimlessly, wondering what the hell he's doing there. Out of breath, he decides he needs to get off the mountain before he gets into more trouble. He then remembers the monster's phrase, whispering about safety first. With that, the young man starts running alone, but the yellow dust suddenly rises from the ground. Scared, he wonders why the yellow dust appeared again in this place. Amidst the smoke, the silhouette of a woman emerges, walking slowly toward him. The figure reveals herself and he recognizes the task force agent he saw before. Maru notices her arm is transforming, looking like something very dark. The agent then turns her face, her eyes red and her skin marked with blood. He widens his eyes in pure panic, unable to believe what was happening. Suddenly, a bright red blade pierces through the head of a giant monster. We then see the agent standing in front of the creature, which was defeated in a single blow. Shocked by the scene, Maru falls to the ground and screams, asking what the hell that was. Nearby, the other rookies also watch the scene, completely frozen in fear. The director shouts for everyone to pay attention as the practical lesson is about to begin. With a wicked smile, she announces that their field training starts now. She explains that this was a level 1 alert, the weakest of all knackle. Officer Kong has already immobilized the monster, so there's no reason for them to worry. The agent then turns her face and looks toward Maru with a curious expression. She wonders if he was the one who managed to kill a knackle by himself yesterday. With an analytical gaze, she thinks about what kind of power would be capable of such a feat. The director then orders everyone to use their powers to fight the monster. Maru is outraged by the order, wondering what they think he is. With the sight of the monster before him, he yells that no one in their right mind would fight it. Panic takes over him, and his body reacts with a tight squeeze in his chest. He realizes he's having another panic attack and can barely breathe. His heart starts to beat uncontrollably, pulsing in a very strange way. A red substance drips from his heart as if it were melting inside. Suddenly, stomach rumbles, and he wonders why he's suddenly hungry. Inside his mind, a shadow with sharp claws begins to crawl toward him. He breathes heavily, breaking into a cold sweat as he feels the sinister presence getting closer. The creature moves like a snake, inching ever closer to the young man. Standing behind him, the shadow watches him, ready to pounce at any moment. With a snarl, the creature leans into his ear as if to whisper something. Suddenly, a bright yellow eye appears in the darkness, staring at the young man. The creature then opens its mouth full of teeth, and a voice echoes telling him to eat. Back in the real world, Maru starts mumbling nonsense, scaring the others. He whispers that he's so hungry and saliva starts to drip from his mouth. With a glint in his eyes, he screams that he's starving and lunges at the monster. Maru-han was in a cold sweat with his eyes shut, feeling a very strange pain. A sinister aura surrounded him as an uncontrollable hunger took over his body. His mouth watered non-stop as if he hadn't eaten in days and was desperate. Suddenly, someone touched his shoulder, snapping him out of the weird trance. He whipped around, his eyes wide with surprise at the interruption. Just then, Eden Sianwar mockingly asked if he had been crying a moment ago. Maru tried to play it off, laughing and saying it was just his stomach growling from hunger. But Eden stared at him with contempt, thinking to himself what a loser he was. Then he turned away, complaining that he couldn't believe he was stuck with a bunch of useless people. Alone, Maru rubbed his stomach, finding it very strange that his hunger had vanished out of nowhere. The scene changes, and Vice Director Young-eun gets the attention of all the new recruits. She begins to explain the basics, warning that the yellow dust around them comes from the knackle. And the stronger the monster, the denser the dust that helps it heal. With a serious look, she takes out a small knife and raises her hand, adding a warning. To demonstrate her point, she simply slices open her own palm in front of everyone. The recruits react with disgust, and Maru-han is visibly impressed by the scene. But her hand heals instantly, and she explains that they also regenerate in the dust. Then Young-eun warns that fatal wounds will still kill them, so everyone should be careful. She concludes by saying that their powers only work in the dust, and Eden yawns, bored. He grows impatient, wondering why they're still talking with the knackle right there. To him, what really matters is how each person decides to use their powers. With a confident look, Eden decides he'll show everyone how it's done. He bites his own lip hard, injuring himself on purpose to activate his power. The yellow dust enters his bloodstream, mixing with the dripping blood. Suddenly, a powerful energy aura explodes from his body, crackling with lightning. His eyes and fist begin to glow with an intense golden light. He explains that by injuring himself and letting the dust in, he can finally begin. Calmly, the agent pulls on a black glove, preparing for the imminent combat. He then cracks his knuckles, ready to show what he's really capable of. And with a single blow, Eden activates his power and explodes the creature's head. Chana Kang's eyes widen in shock, realizing the monster isn't defeated yet. Desperate, she shouts a warning for everyone to be very careful about what was coming next. But a blast of yellow dust sweeps across the field, throwing everyone back with great force. And in the middle of that smoke, the knackle's body begins to completely regenerate. Then the creature reemerges stronger, letting out a terrifying scream that echoes through the area. With all its fury, it smashes the ground with its fists, creating a shockwave. The rookies are thrown into the air, screaming in pain from the impact of the attack. Chana Kang tries to run and help, but she's suddenly stopped by the vice director's arm. Young Un holds her firmly, ordering her not to interfere in the battle under any circumstances. Chana gets angry, saying this is too much for a bunch of inexperienced rookies. But Young Un states that there is no training and they will die if they can't handle this. The scene focuses on the monster, which starts sniffing the air in a very strange way. Suddenly, it whips its head around as if it has found a new target. The creature stares intently at Maru Han's group, who freeze in fear on the spot. He is terrified, wondering why the hell the monster was staring right at him. The monster slashes its own arm with its claws, injuring itself on purpose. Then it swings the wounded limb, launching a blood projectile toward the recruits. The attack pierces right through one of the rookies, who doesn't even have time to react. Chana Kang is completely shocked, unable to believe what she just witnessed. The recruit who was hit was Maru Han, who screams in pain with his shoulder completely perforated. He clutches the wound tightly, feeling an unbearable pain pulsating through his body. Still on the ground, he watches the monster leap away and doesn't understand what happened. The creature lands with a heavy thud, slowly approaching him again. Then the knackle stops right in front of him, staring at Maru with a menacing look. Maru Han is paralyzed with fear, staring at the sharp teeth of that bizarre thing. With that, the monster raises its hand, ready to deliver the final blow with its claws. But suddenly, the ground beneath it begins to crack and shake violently. Out of nowhere, giant centipedes erupt from the earth and bind the knackle's body. The creature struggles and screams in pain, being crushed by the bug's rings. Then a giant centipede head emerges, its eyes glowing with malice. It's revealed that one of the recruits has the powers of the centipede knackle, ready to attack. Just then, another recruit with long hair charges at high speed toward the monster. He makes a powerful leap, jumping with superhuman agility toward his target. With a single swipe of his claws, he mercilessly slashes the creature's neck. The recruit then lands on the ground, revealing he possesses the powers of the tiger knackle. At this, the knackle screams in agony, feeling the fatal blow it just received. The two celebrate, shouting happily that they finally won the battle. The creature's headless body then falls to the ground, releasing a cloud of dust. But the wound begins to bubble, showing that the monster was regenerating again. Its head grows back and it flashes a hideous grin, stronger than before. Seeing this, the recruits panic, unable to believe it healed so quickly. With its new strength, the knackle firmly grabs the centipedes that were still holding it. He grabs the centipede and throws the man toward the woman, and he pulls him close with incredible force. This time, he grabs the centipede recruit's neck with crushing strength. The monster lifts him into the air, and the young man screams desperately that it hurts so much. With a malicious smile, the creature opens its mouth, ready to devour him whole. But a strange shadow appears behind the monster, and the recruit begs for help. Suddenly, someone snaps their fingers, activating an ability called effigy. With that, the knackle's jaw shatters violently, preventing it from biting down. And Eden Sianwur coldly says that's enough. He appears imposing, revealing he also has the powers of an effigy knackle. Seeing this, the monster is left completely bloodied and furious at the interruption. It screams and attacks Eden using a sword that was embedded in its back. But Eden Seanwar doesn't even flinch and calmly begins to take off his black glove. He then grabs the monster's fist and orders it to die as he finishes it off. With a simple twist, Eden snaps the Knuckles' neck once and for all. The monster's head is torn off, dissolving into a sinister black dust in the air. With that, the creature's lifeless body finally falls with a dull thud to the ground. Eden then rolls the deck ahead with his foot, showing total contempt for the enemy. He explains that to kill a Knuckle, you just have to cut off its head and stop it from creating dust. But he mutters under his breath, a little disappointed he couldn't test out other moves. Suddenly, Chana Kong approaches him, her face a mask of pure fury. She accuses him of breaking her blade on purpose just to put everyone in danger. With a mocking tone, he asks if she has any proof of what she's saying. Angered by his response, Chana grabs his arm with great force without hesitation. She then threatens him, saying she'll break his finger again to see what happens. But their argument is interrupted by the sudden sound of clapping from a distance. It was Vice Director Young-eun congratulating everyone on a job well done on their first mission. She stops clapping, and her expression turns serious as she notices something strange. The Vice Director realizes that someone from the group of recruits was missing. The scene changes, showing Maruhan running desperately through the forest out of breath. He yells that he doesn't want the special assignment and that killing monsters isn't for him. Utterly terrified, his only thought was that he needed to run to survive. But suddenly, he stops abruptly, his feet skidding on the dirt ground. Then he looks up, wondering in fright what the hell that thing in front of him was. Far away, Young-eun shakes her head, saying he's not cut out for the job. However, Chana Kong remains silent with a very thoughtful expression on her face. She starts to remember something, wondering what it was that happened earlier. Then she recalls that the Knuckles seemed to have gone straight for the rookie. At that, the Vice Director tells her to find the recruit, saying something isn't right. But Chana notices something crucial and points out that the yellow dust was still there. At this, everyone looks around, seeing that the dust hadn't dissipated as it should have. Meanwhile, Maruhan stares at a giant gate that appeared out of nowhere in the dust. The gate glows with a very strong golden light pulsating with a mysterious energy. And from within that light, a new frightening creature begins to emerge slowly. The giant monster steps out of the portal, leaving Maruhan completely terrified on the ground. He can't believe he barely escaped one, and now another has appeared before him. Scared, he hides behind a bush and peeks out to see what happened. But to his surprise, the area was empty and the creature seemed to have vanished into thin air. He sighs in relief, not realizing the monster was right behind him, disguised. Far away, a task force agent appears, shouting to get their attention. He runs desperately, yelling Agent Kong's name so she'll finally hear him. Chana asks what happened. Seeing the young man's desperation as he struggles to speak, he gasps for air, explaining he just got a very urgent call from the office. He then reports that a level 3 alert has been activated, leaving the Vice Director shocked. Chana panics too, shouting and asking where the new Knuckle has appeared. The scene changes, showing a restricted area sign in a completely isolated place. Someone grabs the barbed wire tightly, preparing to get through the fence. It was Maruhan who tears the sign and enters the forbidden area without a second thought. He keeps running through the woods, his shoulders still bleeding and his body exhausted. Desperation takes over, and all he can think about is getting away from there as fast as possible. He starts to cry, begging out loud for someone to help him. But in the middle of his panicked run, he trips hard on a rock in his path. He falls face first to the ground, screaming as he hits the dirt hard. He gets up, a bit dizzy, running a hand over his head to check if he's okay. Then he spots a small house in the middle of nowhere, a chance to hide. With a sliver of hope, he runs toward it, thinking he'll be safe there. Maruhan arrives breathless at a small shed surrounded by a thick yellow dust. Once inside, he tries to catch his breath, not understanding what's going on. He then peeks through a crack in the door, praying the monster didn't follow him. But he sees the creature's silhouette and screams in despair, thinking all is lost. Suddenly, crystals begin to float around the monster's head. Maru is confused, wondering what those things are and how the monster is doing that. Then he hears a creaking gate and goes on high alert, breaking into a cold sweat. Out of nowhere, an old woman appears, asking if anyone is there. She complains about the yellow fog, saying she can barely see a thing in front of her. The monster turns toward her, also seeming confused by the poor visibility. But the creature soon bares its teeth growling and ready to attack the poor old woman. Seeing this, Maruhan realizes the old lady is in danger and needs help, but he panics. He has no powers and needs to think of something fast. He remembers the vice director's words about healing, and an idea sparks in his mind. But he also recalls the warning. Fatal wounds could still be the end of him. With his hand shaking in fear, he thinks it's better to hide and not risk his life. His safety comes first, so he decides he has to survive no matter what. Outside, the woman keeps calling out, asking if Miss Kim is around. The knackle hears the name and repeats it bizarrely, turning toward her. Annoyed, the old woman stomps her foot, complaining about the nonsensical situation. But suddenly, her eyes widen in pure shock at what's in front of her. The monster reveals itself fully with its skeletal and terrifying appearance. Terrified by the sight, the old woman falls to the ground completely frozen. The knackle's head opens up like a flower, and it whispers the name Miss Kim. With that, the creature points its finger, preparing to launch its deadly attack. The leaf-shaped crystals begin to spin rapidly around its body. And with a simple flick, it fires all the projectiles at the poor old woman. In an instant, all you can see is the victim's blood splattering everywhere. The old woman opens her eyes, a little confused by what just happened. But in front of her was Maruhan, who had shielded her with his own body. With a faint smile, he asks her if she's okay after the attack. She says yes, but her expression turns to pure horror when she sees his condition. She points to his arm, which has been brutally pierced by the monster's projectiles. Powerless, he drops to his knees and begs the old woman to run away. He stares at his own mangled arm, feeling like a complete failure. Without powers, he thinks he's going to die without even saving the old woman's life. Desperate, he begs for someone who isn't a loser to show up and save him. With his last bit of strength, he keeps whispering, pleading for someone to help. Suddenly, a strange and powerful energy begins to surge from within his body. His heart pounds and strange veins pop out on his neck and face. He starts sniffing the air, then opens his mouth, drooling like a hungry animal. His eyes glow with a white light and sharp fangs emerge in his mouth. Completely transformed, Maruhan leaps toward the knackle, ready to attack. Meanwhile, Chanakong was running as fast as she could through the dense forest. Suddenly, a strange noise catches her attention, making her stop in her tracks. She gets into a ready stance, sensing that something very dangerous is coming from that direction. Without a second thought, she throws the gate open and storms into the yard. Her eyes widen in pure shock, unable to believe the scene before her. It was Maruhan biting the monster's neck with completely animalistic ferocity. Chana is horrified, wondering what the hell that crazy rookie is doing. But the knackle reacts, landing a violent slap right across Maruhan's face. He smashes hard against a wall, which cracks from the force of the blow. Lying on the ground, he keeps chewing the piece of flesh he ripped from the monster. And without any disgust, he simply swallows what was left of the knackle in his mouth. Wounded, the monster snarls in pain and fury, its neck bleeding non-stop. The creature then starts to stagger, seeming completely unstable from the wound. Chana notices the monster isn't healing from the bite and is surprised by this. She doesn't understand why. Her eyes wide with confusion, but she has no time to think. So she charges at the creature with everything she's got. With a quick spin in the air, she prepares to strike the weakened knackle. She then reaches out her hand, trying to rip one of the crystals from the monster's head. The agent manages to grab the crystal, which fuses with her hand, cutting the skin. With this, she reveals her iron knackle power, turning the crystal into a blade. The monster screams in fury and unleashes its power on Chana. She then braces for the next move in her attack. Her eyes glow with power, showing the fight is far from over. She parries one of the monster's attacks, creating a shower of sparks. The creature is hit by several blows and crosses its arms to try and defend itself. Chana then leaps high into the air, raising her sword for the final decisive blow. And with a single move, she slices the knackle in half, ending the battle. The monster's head splits in two, its mouth still open in a silent scream. The clean cut divides the creature into two parts, a brutal end to the attack. With the enemy defeated, Chana lands on the ground, breathless but victorious. She stares at her blood-stained blade, her face dirty, and her gaze filled with determination. Then the knackle's body slowly disintegrates, turning into black smoke that vanishes into the air. The yellow dust finally settles, leaving the yard empty and the battle over. Chana runs to the fallen old woman, asking worriedly if she's alright after everything. But the old lady seemed confused, not quite understanding what had just happened there. She snaps out of her shock, asking Chana what happened in her backyard. To calm her down, the agent lies, saying it was just a wild boar that has already run off. The old woman complains about the boars, and Chana thinks that luckily humans forget about Nakles. With a smile, she introduces herself as being from civil services and says she'll take care of everything. Grateful, the old woman goes inside, and Chana says goodbye with a small bow. But as soon as she's alone, her expression shifts to one of serious concern. She then slowly walks toward where the rookie was lying on the ground. Chana stares at him, thinking she's never seen anyone heal so quickly in her life. His arm was already back to normal, and she wonders if he's really a level 1. Maruhan screams in desperation, completely fed up with the whole situation. He gets a message telling him the job starts tomorrow, which sends him into a panic. With that, the memory of that horrible monster comes rushing back into his mind. He remembers the creature attacking with its giant, terrifying mouth. Back in his room, he sits on the bed saying he doesn't want to go. Then the young man throws himself back, deciding to just skip the first day. Maru thinks he doesn't really need a dangerous job like this one, but he hesitates. A look of doubt on his face for a moment. In the end, he ignores it all and turns over to go back to sleep. As he sleeps, a strange smoke starts to seep from his body. Suddenly, his bed begins to float over a dark, deep abyss. The scene shifts to a bizarre place filled with bodies and souls in torment. The creatures scream in pain, trapped in a seemingly endless torment. Just then, a mysterious voice echoes in the darkness, ordering him to come back now. Maruhan jolts awake, completely terrified by the horrible nightmare. He's gasping, trying to catch his breath after the terrible nightmare. Cold sweat drips from his hands as he tries to figure out what's happening. Then the young man realizes it's already morning and is surprised by the light. But he senses something strange, so he decides to open the window to take a look. Carefully, Maruhan sticks his head out, trying to see what it was. He's shocked to see that the entire mountain in the distance is on fire. Amidst the flames, a bizarre creature emerges, walking calmly through the fire. The monster made of lava and rock lets out a growl, its gaze terrifying. But out of nowhere, a woman appears floating and starts making it rain on the monster. Her eyes glow intensely, revealing she has the powers of a water knackle. The water hits the creature's body, which seems to feel the impact of the attack. Then, a man appears beside her and blows a freezing blast in its direction. He's also a user, but with the powers of a mighty ice knackle. With that, the attack freezes the monster's legs, trapping it in place. The two agents look tired, but they successfully immobilized the creature. The woman asks the captain why they appeared during the night, but he yells at her to just focus on putting out the fire first. Clearly annoyed, his power was so strong that it froze the monster completely solid right there. He then materializes an ice weapon with chains to finish the fight. The captain announces he'll take care of the beast, a determined look on his face. With that, he runs across the ice toward the trapped knackle. But suddenly, a shadow strikes the ice and starts shattering everything. In the darkness of the forest, two green eyes watch the fight from afar. The monster receives a mysterious order telling it to bring someone back. With absurd strength, the lava knackle finally breaks the ice and frees itself. The captain leaps over the beast, which prepares for a counterattack. Its fist of rock and fire clenches, ready to crush the agent. Just then, the monster lands a powerful blow that sends the captain flying. The impact is so brutal it throws him hard against a tree. All battered, he feels the pain of the blow, his body badly injured. The woman runs in desperation, screaming the captain's name in a complete panic. But the knackle transforms, its back turning into a lava volcano. Then the creature explodes in a fiery eruption with absurd power. The captain is shocked, wondering what the hell is happening. He doesn't understand why the monster suddenly got so much stronger. The scene shifts to the agency's office in Seoul in the middle of the night. In the control room, all the agents work frantically at their keyboards. Vice Director Yu arrives, wanting to know the current status of the crisis. On the main screen, a red alert shows multiple attack points across the country. An operator reports that 20 mountains are being attacked simultaneously. She says the knackle's appearance pattern has completely changed. The vice director thinks this all started after that briefing. Just then, an agent announces an emergency call has come in from Busan. She presses a button and answers the call, introducing herself as the vice director. On the other end of the line, the man at the crime scene calls for Young-eun. A man on the phone introduces himself as Myung-sik Bai, the Busan chief, but the vice director has no patience and tells him to get straight to the point. He then begins to explain that a gate opened on Jeomjang Mountain, and worst of all, the gate has been open for 3 days now. She's shocked by the news, shouting in disbelief that's still there. Myung-sik says they've been killing the monsters that come out of it non-stop, but the creatures just keep coming out of the portal one after another endlessly. Because of this, his team is already at its limit with almost no strength left to fight. The vice director asks why the gate isn't closing and if they found the cause. Meanwhile, more and more monsters continue to pour through the golden portal. He explains that a specific knackle won't stop making a strange noise. The creature keeps repeating the same sound as if it's an important message. And according to their translator, the monster is trying to say something. The message it repeats endlessly is in order to bring him. The vice director gets furious, yelling and asking who they're supposed to bring. Elsewhere, a messenger knackle floats in the sky in front of the moon. The creature flies swiftly through the night, leaving a trail of dust behind it. With a dull thud, the monster finally lands at its mysterious destination. On the phone, Myung-sik says he doesn't know who they're looking for, but to come quickly. Suddenly, the messenger, knackle, appears in front of the agents, staring them down. Back at base, the vice director presses a button, making a quick decision. Her gaze is pure fury, showing she's going to solve this now. Just then, a helicopter flies at high speed toward the burning mountain. Inside, Eden Sianwar answers a call with a very calm voice. The voice says the situation at the mountain is not good, and he agrees. Eden stands up and says he's almost at the confrontation site. He then says goodbye, telling her he'll call back in a bit. With a strong push, he prepares to jump from the moving helicopter. Fearlessly, Eden dives head first toward the ground, falling like a missile. An intense light shines in the sky, marking his spectacular arrival to the battle. Eden continues to fall at high speed, heading straight for the ground. Impact is imminent, looking like he's about to be splattered everywhere. But he uses a strange ability, stopping his fall just in time. His eyes glow and mysterious marks appear on his face for an instant. With incredible power, he begins to float in the air in front of the moon. We're told this ability is called Spatial Fold, a very rare power. He then flies toward the gate, landing lightly on the rooftop. His feet touch the surface without making a single sound, with total control. The agents are shocked, staring at the man's silhouette against the full moon. One of the agents asks who he is, since the guy appeared out of nowhere. Just then, a colleague shouts, warning that it's not a safe place to be. The red-hooded knackle prepares to attack, spinning its sharp arms. The creature bares its bizarre teeth with a ghastly, terrifying smile. Then the hooded monster charges full speed toward its new prey. The agent can only watch, frozen, as the monster closes in on her. But a surprise attack throws her colleague to the ground with great force. She turns around startled, not understanding what just happened. In front of her, the red-hooded knackle prepares to deal the final blow. But suddenly, Eden starts to create a rift in the air with his hands. The rift expands, releasing a dark energy filled with lightning. With this, he opens a dimensional portal right in front of his body. The technique he's using is called Spatial Tear, an incredible power. He then uses this rift as a blade, ready to strike the monster. The blow hits the knackle head-on, slicing it in half with no chance to react. The beast's body is split in two with the full moon in the background. Then the creature's carcass falls to the ground with a dull thud. The other agents are stunned, unable to believe what they just saw. Eden lands on the ground and says they've all done a great job so far. He tells them he'll take care of the rest and that the team should get some rest. The agent asks who the guy is, but the captain calls him their savior. The captain then explains that the rookies don't know it, but that man is a legend. Meanwhile, the director stretches, preparing to end the party. He is revealed to be Il Dujong, the most powerful and the creator of the task force. With his hands on the ground, he unleashes energy claws throughout the area. The dark power spreads rapidly, covering the entire battlefield. Then pillars of black energy begin to tremble and rise from the earth. The energy erupts upward, forming a prison of lightning across the entire mountain. The sight from a distance is incredible, with his power reaching up into the night sky. The agents watch the mountain, shocked by the sheer size of that purple power. A confused agent asks what all the dark rifts are. The captain explains that it's the legendary spatial manipulation of the Nacles. Up ahead, Director Ildu faces his own energy barrier. He starts to open another rift in the air right in front of him. The rift turns into a portal that sucks everything in, creating a vacuum. The scene cuts showing the other mountain that's still on fire. The flames are still raging, proving the battle there isn't over yet. The lava knuckle is weakened, but it's still withstanding the water attacks. The agent with his hair tied back is exhausted with no strength left to fight. Seeing his fallen partner, he thinks this is the end of the line, but the captain yells for him to get up and run while he still can. The monster lets out a final roar, ready to crush them both with all its might. With a determined look, the captain decides to make his last stand. The monster attacks with full force, but the captain manages to block the blow with a shield. The lava knuckle keeps punching the barrier, trying to break it. Under the force of the blows, the captain's defense starts to crack all over. In a final blow, the monster shatters the shield and hits the captain square on. The impact is so strong, it throws him far back, dragging him across the ground. Furious and powerless, he curses, knowing he doesn't stand a chance anymore. He looks at the monster and thinks this is how he's finally going to die. The captain closes his eyes, bracing for the creature's final blow. But suddenly, he notices something strange and opens his eyes in confusion. The knuckle is pulled backward, sucked into a mysterious portal. It was Ildu who had grabbed the monster's face with a single hand. He holds the creature effortlessly, showing who's in charge. With a quick spin, he hurls the knuckle with absurd force. The monster flies far and explodes upon impact with the energy barrier. The lava monster disintegrates completely. No match for the director's power. Then Ildu looks at the creature's remains and says, "The job here is done." He announces that it's time to clean up all the other attack sites. With a single swift gesture, he activates his mass teleportation power. It's explained to us that this technique is called complete transfer. The scene shifts to another mountain where another battle is taking place. There, Maruhan is on the ground being stomped on by a very strange knuckle. The monster's arm transforms into a blade ready to execute the young man. Just then, the creature strikes, piercing his chest with a fatal blow. But suddenly, a dimensional rift appears right behind the monster. The portal begins to suck the knuckle inside with incredible force. On another mountain, the same thing happens to another monster mid-fight. On Jeju Island, the agents are confused by the portal that appeared out of nowhere. Several Nacles are pulled in at once, taken to another dimension. They all become trapped in the vacuum the director created with his ability. Slowly, the purple energy barrier begins to dissipate into the air. In the control room, an agent reports that the yellow dust has vanished from all locations. But the vice director smiles in relief, saying that it means he has arrived. Meanwhile, Ildu faces the horde of monsters with a very serious expression. He's now surrounded by all the creatures he teleported there. He then says that now that they're all gathered, the party can begin. With a sinister smile, he asks if they can start the fun. One of the Nacles lets out a furious roar, ready to attack with everything it has. At that, the entire horde charges towards him, hungry for a fight. The creatures surround him on all sides, leaving no chance for escape. But Ildu just points a finger as if choosing his first victim. He creates an energy blade using his spatial division technique. The strike cuts down an entire row of monsters at once effortlessly. Then the director unleashes a wave of energy, throwing all the creatures back. With that, the energy spikes return and impale all the remaining monsters. The team is left speechless, completely shocked by what just happened. The agent trembles in fear, saying she's never seen such immense power in her life. The lava knuckle is down, and Ildu slowly approaches to interrogate it. He crouches in front of the creature with a serious and intimidating gaze. The director then calls for the translator, wanting answers from the monster right now. With his hand on the creature's head, he prepares to begin the interrogation. He asks why so many Nacles have appeared, and the creature can only say bring. The translator completes the sentence, saying the monster wants them to bring him. Ildu is confused and asks who they want to be brought. At that, the knuckle can only mimic his voice, repeating bring who. The girl explains that it's just repeating what they're saying now. With that, the monster's body melts into a puddle of lava on the ground. Eden then says that if they keep coming, he'll have to kill them all. Suddenly, blood from one of the monsters splatters right across his face. He wipes the blood with his sleeve and says the job there is done. Eden stares at the gate, warning that they need to deal with it right now. He crouches and places a hand on the ground, preparing to use his power. A sinister purple energy begins to flow from his hand, covering the entire area. With that, a pillar of darkness rises and completely engulfs the gate. The dimensional energy pulls the gate's entire structure into the vacuum. Slowly, the portal vanishes, leaving only traces of his power behind. The agents are shocked by the scene, feeling much safer now. The agent remarks that she thought he was older, surprised by his appearance. Then the director dispels his technique, the energy dissipating into the air. The area returns to normal, and he turns to the team in silence. An agent asks if that was also a form of spatial manipulation. The scene changes to the office, and the vice director meets him as soon as he arrives. She gets straight to the point, asking what he did with the golden gate. He explains that for now, he's placed the gate in his shadow space. Exhausted, he throws himself into his chair and says he hopes to never see that place again. She scolds him, saying he's always complaining when he has it so good. But Ildu defends himself, saying he has his limits and the job is demanding. The vice director agrees and brings up the screen with the information he requested. On the monitor, photos of all the agency's new recruits appear. Then she asks why he's suddenly so interested in the rookies. He explains with a serious look that the Nakles are looking for someone. The recruits' photos scroll by slowly as he thinks about the situation. When Maru Han's photo appears, Ildu says he wants to understand why. In a vision, a horde of Nakles waits for something in a dark place. Then a giant entity begins to drain the energy from all of them. The creature reveals itself as a queen, a powerful and terrifying figure. It's explained that they need to bring him for an important ritual. The scene takes us to a government building, our protagonist's new workplace. And then Maru Han finally arrives, stopping in front of his destination with a serious look. He looks quite nervous about the situation, thinking he ended up there one way or another. In a quick flashback, we see his mother crying, unable to believe her son has become a public servant. His mother says she could finally die happy and in peace. It's explained that he had no choice, but he wonders how he'll get along there. Suddenly, a guy in a floral shirt shows up saying he'd finally arrived. He then starts dragging Maru Han by the arm, who complains about the strong smell of alcohol. Still, the guy keeps pulling him down the hall, waving at someone else. Maru Han then faces his new captain and questions why he was sent to the island instead of Seoul. The captain scoffs at the question and even taunts him, leaving Maru Han quite annoyed. Despite the tension, the man welcomes him to the team as he opens a door. Since it's his first day, Maru Han feels apprehensive, wondering what this place would be like. The door then opens slowly, revealing a completely dark and sinister room. Inside, a man in a red suit stares at him with a serious, intimidating gaze. In his mind, he has a bizarre vision of people being treated like cattle in a butcher shop. He feels completely dizzy from the scene, unable to believe what he was imagining. Suddenly, someone shouts his name, and Maru Han snaps out of his trance, completely startled. The guy in the floral shirt then asks why he's just standing there, telling him to come in. When he enters, he sees that the office is just a normal, even messy place. He scratches the back of his neck, completely confused as this was nothing like what he expected. The captain then introduces himself, saying his name is Go, and he's been working there for 12 years. Then he points to Officer Ji Won-yoon, who's been on the team for 7 years. Next, Officer Lee Bok-kim is introduced, waving while tending to a bonsai tree. And finally, we see young Yoseok Nam, who's been here for a year and seems quite busy. With the introductions over, the captain dismisses everyone, saying they know what to do. Maruhin is left speechless. It's his first job, and he has no idea where to start. He sits at his desk staring into space, still processing the whole situation. Then he looks at the other rookie and thinks that at least he's not the only newcomer around. To break the ice, he gives an awkward wave trying to be friendly. The other rookie, Eden, doesn't seem to appreciate Maru Han's friendly attempt at all. He glares at him with hatred and mutters to himself, wondering what he's staring at. At that moment, Maru Han realizes he was mistaken and that the guy is not friendly at all. Eden keeps complaining about being there, leaving Maru Han wondering what's wrong with this team. To clear his doubts, he turns and calls out to Yoseok, who's at the next desk. Yoseok was shopping online and Maru Han takes the chance to ask what the island team is like. The kid sighs and takes off his headphones to explain the whole situation. He points at Maruhan and starts explaining how the Yellow Dust Task Force works. It's explained that there are 13 main offices spread across the country's major cities. The strongest agents, level 7 and up, are stationed there for important missions. But there are also smaller outposts like Ganghwa Island with few residents and weak monsters. He finishes by saying that the rejects, the troublemakers, and the weak all end up here. A light bulb goes off in Maruhan's head as he finally understands why he's there. He concludes that everyone here has some flaw, but Yoziak clarifies that some came on their own. Curious, he asks who they are, but a loud noise at the window interrupts their conversation. Suddenly, Chan enters the room, looking very tired. Maruhan is startled to see her. She looks confused and starts wiping her face as if she just woke up. Officer G1 then scolds her, telling Officer Kong to go home and rest. But she sits at her desk and says she has nothing to do at home anyway. Yoziak whispers, explaining that she's the other person who volunteered to come to the island. The woman glances at him sideways, wondering how this weird rookie ended up here. It's explained that she has a strange history involving memory loss. Hearing this, Maruhan is shocked and yells out in disbelief. He then asks if there's some kind of hazard pay and Yosek confirms it. His heart races as he realizes they're being asked to risk their lives against the Knuckle. But Yosek informs him that the bonus is 5 times the monthly salary, which surprises him. Maruhan is speechless for a second, trying to process that absurd amount. In an instant, he becomes euphoric, realizing it adds up to over 100 million a year. Satisfied, he returns to his desk while Yoziak asks if he has any more questions. Yoziak puts his headphones back on and tells him to just wait for a Knuckle alert. Maruhan gets a bit annoyed, wondering if the job is just waiting for a siren to go off. He then stares at the alert device on the wall, which remains quiet and unlit. Time passes slowly in the quiet office as the clock ticks away. Then he takes a sip of coffee and an idea starts to form in his mind. He gets all happy, thinking this is the dream job, easy and with an incredible salary. Meanwhile, the captain stretches, yawning out of boredom from the slow day. He turns and tells everyone it's almost time to leave. But first, he approaches the desk and gets the attention of the team's 2 rookies. With a smile on his face, he asks how their first day was and if they have any questions. Eden replies with a scowl, saying he doesn't want to know anything. But Maruhan raises his hand, saying that he actually does have a question. He wants to know what the Knuckle are and where these creatures really come from. The captain looks awkward at the question and scratches his face, not knowing what to say. Yoziak says it doesn't matter as their job is just to obey orders and catch the monsters. Maru is outraged, finding it absurd that they don't care about the monsters, but he forces a smile and says that maybe he's just overthinking it. After all, he didn't even know they existed, so he decides to just let it go. The scene changes to a huge building at night, the organization's main headquarters. Inside, Vice Director Young-eun takes an elevator down to a secret floor. The panel shows the destination is a mysterious floor marked with the letter B. As soon as the doors open, she steps out of the elevator and walks down a dark hallway. She arrives at a futuristic lab where Director Il Dujong was waiting for her. He then turns to her with his arms crossed and asks about the results. She shows some graphs and reports that the Knuckle's attack patterns have returned to normal. The director turns back to the glowing tube, running his hand over the glass thoughtfully. Inside the container, a golden dust moves slowly, as if it has a life of its own. He then asks if she's discovered the reason for the monster's strange behavior. She replies that she hasn't, but she suspects the day of reckoning may be approaching. But Ilda stares at the figure in the tube and says there's no way to know the answer. He then gives a clear order, telling her to make sure the captains don't talk about the day of reckoning. The scene cuts back to the restaurant where Maruhan chokes and shouts, shocked by what he heard. The captain talks about the day of reckoning and wonders what the point of the party is, but he quickly changes his mind and says they still need to welcome the rookies. Maruhan stands up and demands to know what the hell this day of reckoning is. Eating calmly, the captain explains that in 1 year, a rain of Knuckle will flood the earth. We then see a vision of the prophecy with an army of monsters mercilessly invading everything. The young man turns pale with fear, swallowing hard at the thought that they are all doomed. Then the captain makes a shushing gesture and warns that this information is top secret. Officer G1 doesn't seem to care and proposes a toast, telling everyone to drink until they drop. Beside them, Officer Lee Bok Kim just sips his beer calmly, unfazed by the news. Meanwhile, Yoseok fiddles with his phone, bored, just thinking he wants to go home already. Chana Kong eats a skewer and tells them to take it easy as you never know what tomorrow will bring. Meanwhile, Eden drinks with his head down, wondering why he ended up on this island. The party continues with the crew celebrating and the captain being scolded for drinking too much. Maru-han is in shock, unable to understand why everyone is acting so calm. The scene changes and a bright light shines atop a distant mountain at night. It's revealed that the light is coming from a Nakal temple, which begins to glow with great intensity. Inside the gate, a golden energy starts to swirl, creating a sort of vortex. Suddenly, monstrous claws are thrown out, showing that something is coming. Then, several more claws emerge from the portal, signaling the arrival of many monsters. Suddenly, everyone's phones start beeping, displaying a danger alert. The whole team stops what they're doing, reacting with surprise to the unexpected call. Officer Ji-won comments that it's strange to get a Nakal alert at night since things had been quiet. Just then, Chana Kong stands up and confidently announces she'll handle it herself. Eden then offers to go with her, timidly holding his apron, but she gives him a cold look and rejects his help without a second thought. Then she surprises everyone by saying she's taking Maru-han, who even chokes on his spit. The scene cuts to a white car speeding down a dark road in the middle of the night. Inside the car, Maru-han is in the passenger seat looking very nervous about the situation. He's thinking about the prophecy, wondering what he'll do when the invasion happens. Suddenly, Chana calls his name, and he snaps out of his trance, replying that he's paying attention. She then tells him to ignore the prophecy the captain mentioned earlier. Maru-han is confused and asks how she cannot worry about the end of the world. As she drives, she explains that the higher-ups must already have a plan and powerful agents. With her eyes gleaming, she says their only concern is killing the Nakal on the island. He looks at her and thinks that despite being scary, she's also something else. At this, Maru-han blushes, finding her attitude really cool and impressive. With a goofy smile, he feels happy as no one had ever praised him before. In a flashback, we see her memory of a man with devouring powers who surprised her. Maru-han is confused by the term and asks her what devouring means. He remembers the strange monster he saw and wonders if that was a devouring natural. Still not understanding, he asks what kind of power lets you devour monsters. With a smirk, she explains that it's literally the power to eat a natural. The young man is completely terrified, unable to believe what he just heard. Shocked, he asks what she means, not realizing the power was his. Suddenly, monster appears in front of them, letting out a terrifying scream. Before he can react, something is forcefully shoved into the creature's mouth. Chana immobilizes the monster and tells it to be quiet while holding it firmly. Maru-han panics, realizing she's telling him to eat that bizarre thing. But she smiles excitedly and explains that when he bites a Nakal, he doesn't heal. She encourages him to try it, but he just stands there, completely disgusted by the idea. But Maru-han remembers he's special and needs to use his power to help. To encourage himself, he tries to think of it as a squid tentacle, like an appetizer. Mustering his courage, he opens his mouth with a look of terror and prepares to bite. But when the moment comes, he just gives it a tiny nibble, like a kitten. Crying, he complains that it's disgusting, making even the monster feel sorry for him. Impatient, Chana yells at him to get on with it, and finally, Maru-han takes a big bite. The scene returns to the office, showing that a good amount of time has passed since then. Maru-han is passed out on his desk, mumbling that this job is going to kill him. Just then, Eden approaches and taunts him, asking if he throws up every time he goes into the field. The young man turns around angrily and asks what his problem is, not understanding the provocation. But Eden explodes, yelling that because of him, he hasn't even been able to go into the field yet. He keeps complaining, saying that Officer Kong is always dragging Maru-han off to train. Furious, he walks away calling Maru-han useless, which really irritates the rookie. But he quickly calms down and admits to himself that the guy has a point and that he needs to improve. In the middle of the afternoon, the Nakal alarm starts blaring again, filling the office with tension. Chana-kan gets up instantly and shouts Maru-han's name loudly. But when she looks at his desk, she realizes the young man is no longer there. The scene then takes us to the men's restroom door, which was slightly ajar. Inside, Maru-han was hunched over the toilet, groaning and feeling very sick. He despairs, pulling at his hair and wondering how the hell he's supposed to eat a Nakal. With a sigh, he laments having received such a horrible and disgusting power. Deciding to skip training, he stumbles out of the bathroom feeling awful. But suddenly, he comes face to face with Chana Kong, who startles him with her appearance. She stares at him with a serious look and asks if he was hiding in the bathroom. Trying to cover, he makes up an excuse about getting food poisoning from the knackle. She sighs at the lame excuse, seeming a little disappointed in him. Then she tells him straight up that he doesn't seem cut out for this kind of work. She explains that just because he has a power doesn't mean he has to be an agent. He could just sign some papers and live the rest of his life under surveillance. Maru Han is frightened by the idea and complains that it's a stressful invasion of his privacy. But Chana says it's better than dying because weak people like him don't survive. To make matters worse, she warns that his type also gets civilians killed. With a harsh glare, she says that if he can't do the job, he should just leave. Then she steps on his foot, intimidating him even more with her aggressive attitude. She leans in and says they need his desk since the team is already short-staffed. Completely cornered, the young man takes a step back, breaking out in a cold sweat from the pressure. After her message, she turns and walks away, leaving him standing in the middle of the hallway. He watches her walk away, still processing the ultimatum he just received. Back in the office, the afternoon passes, and the atmosphere remains as quiet as ever. Suddenly, the captain looks around and asks if anyone has seen where Officer Han went. Later that night, Chana is still working and wonders where he is. The scene changes to a bridge connecting the island, showing a very calm landscape. And there was Maru Han standing in the middle of the bridge, staring thoughtfully at the horizon. He then stretches and decides she's right. He'd rather be watched than die. Having made up his mind, he takes out his phone and decides to call his mom to tell her he quit. He thinks that in a year, everyone will be dead anyway, so the job doesn't matter, and he answers the call. But before he can speak, he stops walking, shocked by what he hears on the other end. Desperate, he asks where she is, unable to believe her answer. With a cheerful voice, she tells him she went for a walk on Inhuang Mountain with a friend. Maru Han panics and yells into the phone that he had already warned her not to go there. With a bad signal, she says she can't hear him properly, making him even more nervous. Then she mentions a strange yellow dust that has started to fill the forest. He tries to yell again, but the connection starts to fail, cutting her voice off. And suddenly, the call drops, leaving Maru Han completely desperate and with no answer. He freezes in fear, knowing that yellow dust in the mountains means a nutch haul is near. The scene cuts to a team on the mountain who are being warned about a level 5 knackle. One of the agents gets distracted, looking to the side as if he saw something strange. Just then, his partner pulls him by the shoulder and asks what he's doing, getting his attention. In that same instant, they both look up and are shocked to see a monster in the trees. Crouched on a branch, the monster was devouring its prey, ignoring the agents nearby. With its sharp teeth, it tore at the flesh, covering its mouth in blood. The creature then stares down at the agents, and a sinister glint appears in its single eye. Realizing the danger his mother is in, Maru Han screams and takes off running in a panic. One of the local team's agents is at his limit, completely out of breath. He's in shock as a single level 5 knackle took down the entire team by himself. In a brutal attack, the creature simply ripped off one of the agents' necks. Just then, the team captain arrives late, apologizing for not coming sooner. He yells for the rookie to call for backup while using his power to create several clones. The rookie obeys instantly and runs off to follow his captain's orders. His destination is a restricted area where the only means of communication is located. There, he finds an emergency phone, hastily opening the metal box. In agony, he uses the phone since their cell phones don't work because of the dust. The scene shifts to a modern office in Seoul, the command center for operations. There, Vice Director Yong-un receives the team's desperate request for support. She points to a map explaining the danger of the knackle breaking the containment area. If that happens, she warns, civilian deaths will be completely unavoidable, and the monster is already lurking, its face bloodied and ready to attack. The nightmare becomes a reality, and the street is consumed by chaos and destruction. On the ground, a child's blood-stained backpack reveals the cruelty of the monster's attack. Furious, Vice Director Young-un shouts that they have no more time to waste. She then orders all agents to prepare to finish off the knackle once and for all. Meanwhile, a car speeds down the road leading to the mountain. Maruhan gets out, thanks the driver for the ride, and desperately runs toward the main trail. But the area is cordoned off with a sign warning that access has been temporarily closed. He starts looking for his mother among the people who have already been rescued. Then he realizes she's not in the group and is still trapped somewhere up there. Desperate, he tells an agent he needs to go up because his mother is still on the mountain, but the man stops him saying it's dangerous due to wild animals in the area. Maru gets angry, yells that he knows about the knackle and just runs past the crowd. To take a shortcut, he begins to climb a steep cliff face, surprising the agents. With great difficulty, he clings to the rocks, using all his strength to pull himself up. During the climb, he yells for his mother to hang on that he's almost there. The scene focuses on the dense dust-filled forest, showing the great danger that awaits him. On the mountain, we find a woman with a badly swollen ankle after a nasty fall. Maru's mom is helping her, and the woman explains that she tripped because the dust blinded her. Suddenly, Maru's mom turns around in a quick motion that confuses the woman. She then offers to carry her, and the woman is touched by the kind gesture. But then Maru's mom notices something strange moving in the dust, putting her on high alert. A shadow zips by at high speed, showing that something is approaching very quickly. She squints, trying to identify the threat coming their way. And from the middle of the dust, a giant bizarre hand emerges, ready to strike. Her eyes widen in pure terror as she realizes the monster that's right in front of her. At that exact moment, Maru manages to scale the cliff and shouts in relief when he finds his mom. His mom is shocked to see him and asks what he's doing in a place like this. Maru shows her his phone, explaining that he found her through the photo she posted online. Maru's mom questions him about why he isn't at work. Maru shouts back that it doesn't matter since they're in a dangerous situation. The other woman looks on proudly while his mom jokes that all her son needs now is a girlfriend. Maru yells at his mom that this is no time for jokes and that they need to get out of there now. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and realizes something is moving nearby. Looking up, he sees the monster's hand in a tree and warns that it's here. The knackle's eye glows in the darkness, a malevolent grin on the creature's face. Maru freezes in fear, his heart pounding a mile a minute with the tension. He then panics, not knowing what to do to get out of this situation. He remembers that he always faints whenever he sees an anicaps, which is a problem. He feels useless for not being able to protect his own mother from monster. His mom notices he's staggering at the edge of the cliff, thinking he's about to fall. And unable to control himself, Maru simply faints and collapses unconscious on the ground. Seeing this, his mother screams his name, completely desperate. The creature then turns its head, preparing to attack the defenseless young man. The knackle leaps from the tree with full force, heading straight for Maru's mom. It flies towards them, and they are shocked to see the monster coming right at them. Desperate, Maru screams as the monster closes in to deliver the final blow. But at the last second, Maru stumbles and falls off the cliff. Maru is in shock, thinking he was too late to save his mother when something hits the monster. It turns out the knackle was hit by crystal knives that pierced its back. His mom, not understanding, tells Maru about the strange animal lying there. But his mother screams in fear, asking what those things are around his head. Maru is startled to see several crystal knives floating uncontrollably around him. He panics, thrashing and screaming about the knives flying near him. But then he remembers, and he realizes this is the power the last knackle used. He feels a strange pain as if something is tearing through his body from the inside. With that, a bizarre lump starts to form on his back underneath his shirt. Suddenly, one of the crystal knives simply sprouts from his back. The other blades now float around him, leaving him completely confused. With a simple snap of his fingers, he discovers he can control the crystals in the air. He then wonders how he can use the knackle's power and control it so perfectly. In his mind, he remembers that his power was to eat the knackle so they couldn't heal, but then it clicks, and he realizes he also absorbs the powers of those he eats. Full of confidence, he believes that if he uses this right, he can kill the other monster. The scene changes, and we see the fallen knackle wondering why the local team didn't catch it. Just then, a man in a suit approaches the downed agent who is trembling in fear on the ground. The agent, still recovering from the shock, lifts his head and stares at the mysterious figure. The man asks if he's okay, but the agent remains paralyzed, unable to answer. Soon, two guys from the Seoul office, Nero and Namble, show up with an air of superiority. One of them immediately starts grilling the agent, asking how the knackle got past him. The agent, shaking with fear, warns them to be careful as the monster wiped out their entire team. But one of the men in suits doubts him since their team captain was a powerful level 7. The other agent is intrigued, wanting to know what the level 5 Knuckles' power is. Suddenly, the monster's eye glows intensely, revealing its power as the mirror. Maru feels a strange dizziness, wondering what that flash of light just was. With that, the Knuckles' body begins to swell as if it's transforming into something else. Then, several crystal spikes sprout from its back, revealing its ability to copy powers. Maru is in shock, finally understanding what the creature just did. Without wasting time, the monster uses the copied power and launches a volley of spikes at him, and Maru is hit head-on by the attack, thrown backward by the powerful impact. He screams in pain, his entire body pierced by the monster's sharp crystals. Even though he's wounded, Maru stays on his feet, blood dripping from his mouth. He's shocked to realize the monster just used the same power as him. The Knuckle then walks slowly toward him, ready to end the fight. Suddenly, the creature's eye glows once more, copying his next move. Maru tries to rip one of the crystals from his face, but the beast's power does the same to him. He instantly understands that the monster's power is to mirror and copy everything he does. To test his theory, he throws the crystals he had pulled from his body onto the ground. Then he holds out his hand, making a strange and completely unexpected gesture. He makes a heart with his fingers, leaving the monster completely confused. And just as expected, the Knuckle copies the gesture instantly without even knowing what it means. Maru is disgusted by the sight, finding the imitation bizarre and repulsive. Seeing his mother injured, his father screams her name, worried by the shock. But Maru runs to her, asking if she's okay after all the chaos. The scene reveals that his mother also has a nasty gash on her knee. He remembers that humans don't heal in the dust, and his father warns him that he's bleeding. Maru lifts his shirt and says he's fine since his wounds have already healed on their own. He glares at the monster, determined to protect his mother no matter what. Then he tells them to hide so they don't get hurt. His mother is confused and asks what the hell he's planning to do. With a confident smile, Maru explains that it's his duty as a public servant to protect them. He says he'll be right back and charges at the Knuckle without a second thought. With a strong push, he creates some distance to build up speed against the enemy. Then he sprints toward the monster at full speed, preparing to attack. And in a swift move, he tackles the creature with all his might. They both end up rolling and falling off the cliff together in a free fall. His mother screams Maru's name, completely devastated by the scene she just witnessed. They can only watch as a few birds fly away, startled from the crash site. The scene shows Maru lying badly injured on a ledge halfway down the cliff. But even after all that, he jolts awake, proving he's still in the fight. Covered in wounds, Maru drags himself across the ground, struggling to get up. He looks at the fallen monster and decides he needs to get it away from his mother. His plan now is to just hold on until the mountain rescue team arrives. Meanwhile, agents from Seoul, Nero, and Namble arrive at the area and are confused. They find the entire local team defeated, surrounded by several Knuckle clones. A horde of identical monsters approaches, making the situation even more tense. Namble is confused, wondering why there are so many identical Knuckle all over the place. But Nero explains that the mirror Knuckle must have copied the captain's cloning power. The creatures get ready to attack, showing that the fight wasn't over yet. Nero thinks that if they find the original, the clones will disappear. But he doesn't know how to find it. But Namble doesn't care about strategy and yells that the only way is to kill them all. He then concentrates his energy, preparing a massive attack with his fist. His fist glows with an incredible power, ready to unleash massive destruction. With a single punch to the ground, he creates an explosion that sends all the clones flying. Nero finds his partner's actions completely unnecessary, shaking his head in disapproval. He realizes the original isn't there and wonders where the real monster has hidden. Far away, the real Knuckle sucks in the yellow dust, strengthening itself to continue the fight. Then it spits out several crystals, aiming directly at Maru on the cliff. Maru gets pissed off, realizing the damn monster is healing way too fast. Finding this a total pain, he limps away, trying to think of a new plan of attack. Suddenly, a strange voice in his head makes him tense up with a frightening look in his eyes. In an outburst, he yells at the monster not to dare copy his mother, pointing at it. With that, an immense power shoots out, but it misses the target. Maru gets frustrated, realizing he missed all his attacks at once. With complete control, the monster levitates one of the crystals, preparing for a counterattack. And in a swift motion, the creature hurls the sharp blade toward Maru. With no way to dodge, Maru is brutally pierced through the chest by the beast's attack. But even through the pain, he grits his teeth in hatred, refusing to fall. Furious, Maru throws himself off the cliff, cursing at the monster below. He plummets like a rocket, heading straight for the nozzle with his attack. The creature is pierced by one of the crystals, screaming in pain from the surprise attack. Despite his injuries, Maru laughs insanely, celebrating that he finally managed to hit it. But the monster simply rips the crystal from its own shoulder as if it were nothing. And in seconds, the wound closes completely, healed by the yellow dust. He realizes the beast's healing ability is much faster than his own. Then, a memory flashes in his mind about something Agent Kong had said. In a quick flashback, we see Chana Kong scolding him for not listening to her. The scene shows Maru collapsed on the ground, completely exhausted after a day of training. He was complaining that he wasn't cut out for fighting, saying he couldn't go on anymore. Then she extends her hand to help him up, trying to encourage him. She holds him tightly, explaining that his problem was his fear of getting hurt. But she reminds him that they heal in the dust, so he didn't need to worry. Even so, he grumbles that it hurts and that eating the knuckle was disgusting. The agent squeezes his hand tightly and he yelps, apologizing for complaining. Still in the flashback, Maru awkwardly asks if there isn't another way to fight the monsters. Then Chana explains that to kill a knuckle, you have to sever the creature's neck. She warns him that his powers aren't lethal, so he's stuck in a support role. But she smiles and says that, on the other hand, no one heals as fast as he does. With that, Chana encourages him, telling him not to be afraid to fight the knuckle. Back in the present, Maru wipes his face and remembers he doesn't need to be afraid of getting hurt. And thanks to his devouring power, he now has a deadly attack at his disposal. The problem is that his aim is terrible and the monster won't stop moving on the rock. He then grits his teeth thinking that if he can't aim, he'll have to improvise. Just then, the voice returns in the knuckle's head, mimicking what it heard from Maru before. Seeing no other way out, he firmly grabs one of the crystal blades. He then throws himself off the cliff once more, plummeting straight toward his target. The two of them spin in the air and the knuckle mirrors the movement, not understanding what's going on. Maru then shouts that if he can't aim at the monster, he'll have to resort to a desperate measure. His idea is to stab himself, forcing the knuckle to do the same and kill itself. With a victorious smile, Maru yells that he did it, plunging the blade with all his might. But the monster simply bites the crystal, stopping the blow with its steel-like teeth. Maru is in shock, his final attack blocked in a way he never expected. Then the knuckle seizes the opening and stretches out its giant hand to grab Maru. He's caught by the neck in an instant, starting to suffocate in the monster's grip. The creature pins him against the cliff wall, giving him no chance to react. As it chokes him, his mother's voice echoes, repeating his name in a frightening way. Maru screams in pain, completely overpowered by the creature's might. And without any mercy, the monster slams him into the ground, creating a crater. Fallen and weak, he tries to gasp for air, but he can't breathe at all. In pure desperation, he decides he has to use his power and bite the monster without hesitation. But the knuckle's eye suddenly glows, mirroring his next move. The creature then lunges forward and bites Maru's neck with immense force. Maru lets out a scream of pain, completely surprised by the creature's brutal attack. Maru rips a crystal from his back and pierces the monster's neck. He staggers to his feet, gasping, realizing he got a nasty bite in the chaos. But the creature simply swallows the crystal that was stuck in its shoulder. Suddenly, Maru feels a wave of dizziness. Not understanding what's happening to him, he realizes his blood won't stop flowing. His healing isn't working anymore. With that, he collapses to the ground, blood gushing from the wound in his neck. Clicks. He wonders if the monster copied his devouring ability too. Coughing up blood, he panics. Not knowing how much longer he can last like this, the knuckle simply turns its back and walks away, leaving him there to die alone. But a mysterious voice shouts for him to get up, jolting him awake. The scene cuts to a flashback and Chana asks how many times he's passed out. He explains that he has panic attacks and can't control them. As he speaks, he clutches his chest, explaining that it feels like he's dying during those moments. But she yells that's all the more reason for him to fight this fear. She warns him that if he doesn't fight back, he won't just feel like he's dying. He actually will. Chana then reminds him that he's the last line of defense, and if he fails, people will die. Back in the present, his father's voice echoes across the mountain calling for him. His mother searches for him desperately, limping through all the dust. Maru hears the call from below, which gives him a sliver of hope. He takes a deep breath, gathering his strength for one last push. He grips the crystal blade tightly even as his hand bleeds. The knuckle does the same, and the glow in its eye shows it's ready to fight. In his mind, Chana's voice tells him to take the monster down with him if he's going to die. He bites his own lip in anger, channeling all the rage he feels in that moment. Then, with his eyes glowing, Maru lets out a roar of pure fury at the monster. The knuckle mirrors his roar, showing it will copy his every move in the fight. Then the two of them run towards each other, ready for the final showdown right there. The creature also holds a blade, perfectly mimicking the weapon Maru is using. But the monster is faster and attacks first, plunging its blade into Maru's chest. He lets out a scream of pain, feeling the full impact of the blow. But in reality, he reveals a sword of light he had hidden up his sleeve. With that, a giant crystal he had hidden earlier is activated on the cliff. His father's voice echoes, distracting the monster and leaving it completely confused. Maru seizes the chance and grabs the creature, holding it in place for the attack. Then he screams at the top of his lungs, signaling for his final trap to be sprung. The other blades he scattered across the area begin to move in sync. They fly at high speed, aiming straight for the immobilized knuckle. The surprise attack closes in on the monster, which has nowhere to run. The creature is then pierced from all sides, taking massive damage all at once. The monster screams in pain, finally feeling a blow it couldn't copy. To secure the victory, Maru uses himself as bait, getting pierced along with the monster. He grits his teeth in pain, enduring the suffering to finish the attack for good. From the impact, the knuckle's body begins to fall apart, unable to withstand the blows. And to finish it off, the last hidden crystal flies straight towards them. The giant blade cuts through the air and slices off the knuckle's head in one clean strike. With that, the monster's body and head fall to the ground, finally defeated. Maru stands panting and covered in wounds, staring at the creature's body on the ground. But his body is at its limit, and he can't hold on, collapsing in exhaustion next to the monster. With tears in his eyes, he celebrates with relief, having fulfilled his mission. The two bodies now lie on the ground, marking the end of an intense battle. Far away, the knuckle's clones begin to turn to dust, surprising the agents in Seoul. Namble asks if they caught the original since the monsters were just disappearing. But Nero explains that, no, the real knuckle was killed somewhere else. He then grows thoughtful, wondering who was responsible for such a great feat. The scene returns to Maru as he touches his neck. Maru realizes his wound is now healing since the monster is dead, feeling a sense of relief. He tenses up thinking he wouldn't make it out alive this time. Then he decides he needs to find his mother, who must be extremely worried about him. But suddenly, a strange memory surfaces with a voice telling him to eat something. In his memory, a mysterious figure with a glowing fist showed very aggressive intent. His father's voice in his head screams for him to eat. He then remembers it was his father telling him to eat something during the attack. Back in the present, the knuckle's body begins to turn to dust, slowly disintegrating. Maru stares at the monster, thinking about the special power that strong creature possessed. Then he realizes that if he eats the creature, he can steal that incredible ability for himself. He remembers a prophecy, one that says a shower of knuckle will invade the earth. Determined, he kneels beside the monster's body, ready to do what he must. Thinking about protecting his mother, he decides that if that's the case, he needs to get stronger. And without hesitation, he begins to devour the knuckle's body in a bizarre scene. Despite his disgust, he swallows a piece of the creature to absorb its power. After wiping his mouth, he decides he'll eat every strong knuckle that crosses his path. With that, his eyes glow intensely, showing off the new power he just stole. The scene takes us to the front of Sacred Heart Hospital where his mother was admitted. She wakes up in a panic, shouting and asking if she had fainted back in the mountains. Back in the room, she's eating a snack and tells Maru she doesn't remember any of it. He then asks if she really doesn't remember anything and thinks with relief that this is a good thing. We see a flashback of her terrified, thinking it was too late as she saw a headless monster. The memory shows the creature roaring, but thanks to the yellow dust, she's forgotten everything. Back in the present, Maru reads the news on his phone about the chaos that happened on the mountain. He then warns his mother, telling her to never travel to that dangerous place again. But she explains she went there because someone thought they saw his father in those mountains. Maru turns away in silence, visibly shaken at the mention of his father. It's revealed that his father disappeared in those very mountains because of a nacho. The scene shifts to a flashback showing a young Maru lost and scared in the forest. His face is filled with total panic. He sees blood splattering everywhere from the brutal attack on his father. Then, the traumatic memory shows the giant monster holding his father right in front of him. Back in the present, Maru's expression turns dark as he processes the horrible memory. He's covered in sweat, wondering if that was even a real memory from his past. Suddenly, his mother calls out to him, snapping him out of his trance and making him turn around startled. She asks what's wrong with him since he was acting so strangely. With a worried look, she comments that his new job must be very difficult, but he gives a slight smile and says he's getting used to the new routine. The scene changes to his workplace, a typical Korean government building. As soon as he arrives, a furious woman shouts down the hall calling for Officer Han, hiding. He wonders how the hell she knew he was there. He then peeks out with a smile and gives an awkward, good morning. Jae-won-yoon is not in the mood for pleasantries and yells asking where he was yesterday. A smug-looking colleague, Eden Seonwar, grumbles that the answer is obvious. He continues saying scornfully that Maru ran away because he was scared of the situation. Embarrassed, our hero can only lower his head and apologize for his absence. But then Chanakong defends him, saying she sent him home because he wasn't feeling well. Maru is completely shocked by the excuse she gave. Unsure how to react, Chanakong just stares at him with her red eyes, looking perfectly calm. Ji-won doesn't buy it and asks Chana how she could have forgotten to report it. The tension rises, and Ji-won warns that she's been letting her get away with too much for a while now. Suddenly, it looks like the two of them are about to start a fight right there in the middle of the office, but an alarm sounds. And Chana says it's a level 2, and they'll finish their fight later. Impulsively, Maru shouts for everyone to hear that he's going on this new mission too, and the entire office stops to stare at him. The scene cuts and takes us directly to a mountainous region far from the city. We then see the team hiking up the trail, already out of breath from the long walk. Maru approaches Chana and apologizes, saying she got into trouble because of him. But she replies that he only left because she had said some pretty harsh things. At this, she stops walking and questions him, asking what made him come back to the team. With a determined expression, he replies that now he feels ready to truly fight. Chana gives a faint smile and particles of golden dust float around her. Heavy footsteps echo through the forest and a giant silhouette approaches in the dust. At this, the entire team freezes, feeling the ground shake as the monster approaches. Then a huge and bizarre knackle emerges from the smoke. The creature stops in front of them and lets out a roar preparing to fight. Chana then warns Maru not to underestimate the beast even if it's only a level 2. He remembers that the mountain team was defeated by a much stronger knackle. Then Yosek comments that it was the Seoul team that showed up and took care of everything there. He says those guys are incredibly strong, level 7 and up, which leaves Maru shocked. Maru is furious inside since he was the one who fought like hell to kill that thing. He screams in his mind wanting the credit, but he can't say a word to anyone. Back to the fight, he points in confusion and asks what the hell the knackle is doing. It turns out the giant creature is just standing there rubbing its own armpits. Suddenly, Maru stretches his arm out in front of everyone with a very determined look. He tells Chana and Yoseok to stay back because he's going to fight this one alone. Chana is completely bewildered, surprised by the rookie's sudden attitude. Yoseok is confused and asks how Maru, a level 1, is going to defeat a level 2. But he replies with a huge grin, telling them to just watch and learn from the master. He then positions himself right in front of the nacho, which crosses its arms with a defiant look. Maru runs his hands through his hair, concentrating to activate his special ability. A diamond glows on his forehead, and his mirror knackle powers are finally activated. He thinks that he'll show them how strong he's become, and that he's not completely useless anymore. With that, he starts to imitate the monster, rubbing his arms in a very bizarre way. A disgusting green smoke comes out of him, and the knackle sniffs it with a strange look on its face. The creature then repeats what it learned and starts flapping its arms, releasing even more of the stench. Maru himself almost gags on the smell, complaining that the stench is unbearable. But he refuses to back down, yelling that he'll make it pay as he charges forward, his fist glowing. He rushes in to land a blow while the monster unleashes its foul-smelling attack. Further back, Yoseok can't handle the smell and starts to get really sick from the stench. He shouts that the creature's power is its stinky armpit and that it's like a chemical weapon. The fumes are so strong that even Chana, who's a tough one, starts to feel dizzy. Yoziak grabs Shana, telling her to snap out of it because she's a level 7 and can't afford to slip up. Maru grows desperate when he sees the monster withstanding his stench attack. He then realizes his plan isn't working and that the team is about to be defeated. But then he shouts that he'll show them his speed and starts swinging his arms frantically. As he does, his feet move at an incredible speed, kicking up dust wherever he goes. He easily dodges the Knuckles' attacks, moving much faster than the monster. Then he stops right in front of the creature, staring it down with an expression of pure rage. Sweating profusely, he thinks to himself that he needs to give it his all to win this fight. With that, he unleashes a blast of stinking energy, telling the monster to eat his attack. The creature is hit head-on by the blow and lets out a deafening scream of pure pain. Unable to withstand the power, the Knuckle crashes to the ground, finally defeated. His back turned, Maru takes a deep breath, exhausted after using so much energy at once. He turns around slowly as his companions stare at him in disbelief. With a victorious smile, he celebrates, saying he finally managed to win the battle. Chana and Yoziak stand frozen, completely stunned by the rookie's display of power. After the fight, the team takes advantage of a cool breeze to wash up in a nearby stream. With a small smile, Chana shakes her hands dry and looks at Maru, curious about his power. But he's still a bit nauseous, recovering after using that disgusting ability. She then questions him, asking if he also absorbs powers when he eats a Knuckle. Maru explains that he used the mirror power of the last Knuckle to copy the armpit attack. At this, Yoziak starts mocking him, mimicking his pose and shouting, "Watch and learn." He bursts out laughing, saying the armpit attack is the most embarrassing power he's ever seen. Maru turns bright red and agrees that on second thought, it is a pretty weird ability. But Chana praises him, saying he did a good job and is showing that he's learning. He's surprised and flustered by the compliment, not expecting that reaction from her. But then she adds that despite everything, she still finds it disgusting that he eats the monsters. The word disgusting hits Maru hard, leaving him completely disheartened by the comment. Then she tells him to rest up as she and Yoziak are going to check the dust levels. He sits alone on the grass and sighs, feeling a bit down about the situation. He puts his face in his hands, thinking about how shameful it is to have a stinky armpit power. He laments that his fresh start and his chance to earn respect have gone down the drain. Suddenly, he hears a voice and slowly turns to see who's there with him. A mysterious figure backlit by the sun asks if he is indeed the famous Officer Han. With the sunlight in his eyes, Maru squints and asks who the man is. It's Director Ildu, who questions if he was the one who killed the level 5 Knuckle on the mountain. With a swift movement, the director approaches and leans in towards Maru. He then continues asking how he managed to do it despite being only a level 1. Maru replies with a bit of an attitude, asking what the big deal is if he's weaker. Hearing the bold response, a faint smile appears on the corner of Director Ildu's mouth. He then introduces himself as a member from Seoul and invites him to join the team. Maru is completely shocked and asks if the man is really from the famous Seoul office. Director Ildu gives a slight smile and asks if he's heard of the team. Super excited, Maru says yes because everyone says they're the best. But then he calms down and asks, a little confused, why he was chosen for invitation. With a confident air, Illinois Du explains that he's very good at recognizing great potential. Maru is confused, wondering what kind of potential that man saw in him. The scene changes, and we see the director being called by Vice Director Young-eun in the office. She questions him about where he was as the important meeting had to be postponed. With a little smile, he reveals he was checking out a rookie who interested him. Young-eun then stares at him and asks if by any chance he was talking about his own son. She continues mentioning Eden Seonwar, who's on Maru's team. But he says the kid hates him and hasn't spoken to him since his parents' divorce. The director then explains that it was another rookie who really caught his attention. The vice director asks if he still thinks a rookie caused the incidents with the Noshel. He confirms and tells them to keep an eye on Ganghwa Island as his gut is telling him something. In a mysterious place, an ancient golden energy emanates from an old burning altar. This energy travels like dust through a dark corridor searching for a new host. Then it finally finds a target possessing the body of a sleeping man. Meanwhile, back at the team's office, the day seems to be going on quietly and normally. Maru has a goofy grin on his face, still daydreaming about Director Ildu's invitation. He celebrates by spinning in his chair, unable to believe that the famous Soul team wants him. But then he realizes this means fighting only the most dangerous knackle. On second thought, he decides that safety comes first and it's better to stay right here. But he quickly gets excited again, thinking he's finally being recognized by the big bosses. Just then, Eden appears out of nowhere and kills the mood, reminding him that he's just a level 1. Maru is totally confused, having no idea what his colleague is talking about now. With a serious look, Eden tells him to stop that silly, pointless little laugh. He keeps grumbling, saying that Maru's behavior is starting to really get on his nerves. Then he taunts him saying Maru is just jealous because he's not good enough for Soul. But with a sinister smile, Maru asks who he thinks he's calling a nobody. Furious, Eden slams the table and yells at Maru, asking what he dared to say. The taunt hits Maru hard when Eden calls him a stinky armpit clapper. He panics, wondering how the hell his colleague found out about his power. Then he sees Yoziak in the background and realizes the gossip spread the story to everyone. The office crew starts making fun of him, with Captain Diakman bursting out laughing. The captain can't contain himself, finding the rookie's whole situation hilarious. He points and keeps laughing while Maru thinks about how much he hates that guy and everyone there. But then Ji-won Yoon steps in, telling everyone to stop making fun of Officer Han. Maru gets all emotional because she says he actually did a great job in the fight. But then she starts teasing him too, saying he evolved from hiding to fighting. He feels even more down and gives a sideways glance, completely discouraged. Just then, he sees Chana Kong drinking coffee, not caring at all about the commotion. Later, he's alone in the office, thinking everyone there sees him as a loser. He takes out his phone and sees the director's contact info, who asked him to call when he made up his mind. With a determined look, he decides he's going to accept the offer and get a fresh start in Seoul. The alarm sounds and Chana stands up, announcing a level 2 Inshallah alert. But suddenly, Eden grabs her arm with great force, stopping her from leaving. He firmly states that this time, he's the one going no matter what. With an irritated look, he thinks he's dying of boredom in this stagnant office. Then he turns to Maru and invites him to come along. Since the rookies should stick together, Maru just stares at the invitation with a look on his face that clearly shows he hates the idea. The scene cuts and takes us back to the mountains where the new mission is about to begin. There, we see Maru and Eden climbing the trail, already completely out of breath. Eden seems quite excited about the situation, even though he's visibly very tired. Meanwhile, Maru thinks he doesn't want to spend another second with that idiot. He grumbles that this is going to be a pain, and he just wants to get it over with so he can call the director. Exhausted, Maru wipes his sweat and asks what he found around here. He then points to an old house surrounded by a very sinister and strange dust. Maru gets scared and asks if the dust is coming from the house and if there are people inside. Without answering, Eden tells him to follow, but Maru thinks he's not his boss. Eden enters the abandoned house confidently, while Maru peeks from right behind him, scared. He analyzes the dust, saying it looks denser and could be a level 4. Inside, the place is a mess covered in a thick layer of yellow dust. The dark smoke spreads through all the rooms, making it difficult to see anything. Maru warns him to be careful because even though it seems abandoned, the knackle could be nearby. But Eden completely ignores the warning and keeps walking without a care in the world. Suddenly, a loud noise comes from behind a door, indicating something is there. With a serious look, Eden says the monster is definitely hiding inside that room. He then tries to turn the doorknob to get in, but discovers the door is locked. Maru tries to stop him, but Eden shoves him and yells for him to get out of the way. He then says that if the door won't open, he'll just smash it down and get in. With that, he puts on a black glove and readies his fist, which glows with an intense energy. Maru cringes in fear, screaming and bracing himself for a huge explosion of power, but nothing happens. And Eden was actually just adjusting the glove on his wrist. He makes fun of Maru, who is relieved and celebrates being still alive after the scare. Eden leans against the door to feel the dust and blows away the excess to see. Through the keyhole, he can see a hunched silhouette in the middle of a dark room. The mysterious figure is squatting in the corner, surrounded by a thick yellow dust cloud. Curious, Maru pushes Eden and tells him to let him see what's inside too. He leans against the door and concludes the creature is weak since it locked itself in. But Eden calls him an idiot and warns that the dust is at least level 7. Maru is in shock, unable to believe such a strong knackle has appeared on Manhwa Island. Unlike his partner, Eden stretches and says he's getting excited about the situation. With an excited grin, he celebrates that he's finally going to get a real fight. Desperate, Maru runs to the exit, saying they need to call for backup. But when he tries to open it, he realizes the front door is also locked from the outside. He tries to force the handle, but the door won't open at all to his panic. He then bangs hard on the wood, shouting that they're trapped and can't get out. Not understanding anything, he wonders if all of this is because of that mysterious knackle. Out of nowhere, Eden starts kicking the door. Eden keeps punching the door with all his might, yelling for them to open up. With an insane smile, he calls the creature a hermit and tells it to come out and fight. Maru despairs at the other door, thinking that the psycho is all worked up now. Inside, the creature slowly lifts its head, revealing the face of an old man. He leans against the door, lamenting being trapped with a crazy guy and an achal. Suddenly, the monster's head, made of dust, starts floating in the middle of the room. The creature's mouth opens slowly, preparing to mimic the voice it heard outside. Then its face stretches out, and it repeats the word hermit in a bizarre way. The monster's skin deforms even more as it keeps repeating the same word. Eden stares at his hands and realizes he's broken all his fingers without even scratching the door. He's furious, wondering what the hell this door is made of. Seeing this, Maru decides to try his luck and grabs a chair. He smashes it against the door with all his might, only to find that everything in the house is indestructible from the door to the windows. He then starts to suspect that the hermit knackle's power is keeping them trapped here. Defeated, he slides down the wall with no hope of escape. Then he starts to have a panic attack, thinking they've been trapped for an hour already. 2 hours later, he despairs, wondering if the team has forgotten about them. The scene cuts to the office, where the rest of the staff is in a total frenzy. Captain Diakman yells desperately, telling everyone it's an emergency. Jaiwan is running back and forth, looking like she's completely freaking out about something. It turns out she remembered she forgot an important training conference in Busan. With that, the office descends into chaos, with everyone working tirelessly against the clock. Chana then slams a key, finally managing to send the files just in time. Chana ties up her hair, getting ready to hand the files to the captain before he leaves. Then she slaps his hand, warning him that time is running out. With everything settled, the captain says goodbye to everyone and rushes off on his trip. Exhausted, Ji-won throws herself on the couch and announces that everyone can finally relax a bit. She enjoys the moment of peace and takes a sip of coffee, regaining her energy. The whole team sits down to rest, remarking that they can finally have some peace and quiet. But then it hits Yoseok. He realizes it's been 3 hours since the rookies left. Ji-won gets stressed, saying this is why you don't send 2 rookies out alone. She then stands up and calls for Yoseok, while telling the others to be on standby. Chana gets up too, announcing she's going with them because something must have gone wrong. Ji-won stares at her for a moment before getting closer to say something privately. She whispers, asking if Chana is sure since the location is very suspicious. But she tells her not to worry, and the rescue team gets ready to leave. They arrive at the abandoned house, which is surrounded by a dense cloud of yellow dust. Inside, they don't find anyone and start searching, wondering where the 2 went. Yoseok notices a shadow in the dust and wonders what that strange thing is. Suddenly, Maru and Eden appear, yelling not to close the door under any circumstances, but it's too late. The front door slams shut with a loud bang, trapping everyone inside. Maru panics, screaming and asking why on earth they came into the house. The 2 rookies collapse on the floor, exhausted, and Ji-won approaches to find out what happened. The scene cuts, and now the entire team is gathered in front of the mysterious bedroom door. Ji-won asks if the knackle isn't coming out, and Maru confirms it's locked in there. Then Chana steps forward and tells everyone to back away because she's going to handle it. A bizarre weapon seemingly made of flesh and veins materializes in her hand. She wields the bright red sword, preparing to break down the door with her power. With a swift movement, she unleashes a massive slash towards the locked door. But to everyone's surprise, the door remains intact without a single scratch. Yoseok's jaw drops, shocked that the door withstood such a powerful attack. Seeing this, Ji-won rolls up her sleeve and announces that it's her turn to try. A bizarre black hole appears on her arm, wriggling like a living spider. It's revealed that Ji-won has the powers of a spider knackle, creating a creature in her hand. She then approaches the door and tells her little spider, Minnie, to go through the keyhole. Carefully, she squeezes the little creature through the hole, praising it for being a good girl. But the plan fails as the keyhole is too small for the spider to get through. Maru is shocked, finding it incredibly weird how she treats that monster like a baby. At that, Eden tells Yoziak to stop watching and show them his powers already, but Yoziak explains to everyone that he doesn't have any offensive abilities. Maru taunts him, saying that makes him completely useless on this mission. Annoyed, Yoziak tells Maru to use the mirror power he got from eating the nacho, but he replies that he can't see the creature clearly, so he can't activate the power. Completely hopeless, Eden asks if there's anyone left at the office to save them. Ji-won then explains that the captain went to Busan and won't be back until the next day. But then Yoziak remembers and says there's still Officer Kim who can help. Suddenly, Lee Bok Kim himself appears, and the team asks how he got there. With a smile, Officer Kim explains that he just came to see why they were taking so long. The team is shocked as his presence is so subtle that no one noticed him arrive. He then approaches the mysterious door and presses his ear against it, trying to hear something. Ju Hwan questions him, asking if he can handle their complicated situation. But out of nowhere, Officer Kim suddenly blacks out and collapses to the floor, unconscious. The rest of the team stands there, looking at him in silence, not understanding why. Maru asks if he's actually asleep or if this is just some kind of lame joke. But Ji-won says she doesn't know since she's never seen her colleague use his powers before. Maru and Eden are horrified by her answer, unable to believe their bad luck. He then thinks furiously about how useless everyone on his team seems to be. Suddenly, Ji-won starts clapping her hands, getting everyone's attention. She tells the team to gather around because they need to figure out a way to get out of there and fast. But Eden retorts angrily, saying they've already tried everything and nothing worked. Ji-won responds firmly, warning that they can't just give up regardless. Then Yoziak suggests waiting for the captain since the monster isn't attacking. Maru is terrified, unable to believe they're going to be stuck there until the next day. The team starts arguing among themselves, unsure of what to do in the tense situation. But Chana stays back with her arms crossed, just silently observing the chaos. Maru finds her silence strange and wonders why Officer Kong isn't saying anything. Then Yoziak questions why the knuckle is just standing by and what its plan might be. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound startles everyone in the room. She yells that the noise came from inside the room and runs towards the door. With a bang, she slams hard against the adjacent wall, trying to understand the situation. At that moment, her eyes turn red and lifeless as if she's not in control. Turns out the walls of the house are starting to move and tremble in a bizarre way. A sharp object flies from the ceiling and shatters on the floor, increasing everyone's panic. The entire team panics, screaming that the house is shrinking around them. But then Eden yells that he's finally figured out what the hermit knuckle is doing. With a fixed gaze, he reveals that the monster is trying to do one specific thing, and we see the knuckle's face as it seems to concentrate on completing its evil plan. The knuckle's hand begins to close, and it uses its power to control the house. Its plan is to close the entire house in on itself. With that, the walls and windows begin to crack under the absurd pressure of its power. The monster wants to be the only thing left, becoming the structure itself. Maru despairs because if they don't kill the knuckle, they'll all be crushed to death. The entire team stands with their backs to each other, facing the rapidly approaching threat. With his eyes glowing, he wonders what they can do to get out of situation. The scene shifts to a flashback from 4 years ago, at a quiet little house in the countryside. We see a younger Chana running and happily waving to her grandmother. A little boy and her grandmother call out to her, overjoyed by her arrival. The boy then runs to hug her, and the grandmother smiles at the family reunion. They enter the house, which sits in the middle of a small well-tended field. That night, as Chana lies down with them, she wishes they could stay together forever. She plays with the boy, who asks her not to forget to visit them during the holidays. Then her gaze turns distant, and she just stares at the ceiling with a blank expression. The boy points to a drawing on the wall, and she scolds him for scribbling on it. But he replies that grandma likes the drawing and that it's no big deal. With a smile, he explains that it's a portrait of a very happy family. The drawing begins to be covered in dust, signaling the passage of time. Back in the present, the house continues to shrink and dust takes over everything. Chana mutters no, refusing to accept what's happening. With a furious cry, she bites her own arm hard, trying to break free. With the bite, Chana's bizarre weapon emerges from her arm, full of veins and flesh. She then slams the blood blade against the wall, trying to break the barrier by force, but the blow has no effect, and the weapon seems to writhe in pain in her hand. Desperate, she scrapes the blade against the wall, trying to use the friction to gain power. But it's the weapon itself that begins to crack, unable to withstand the pressure of the impact. She then realizes the blade needs more blood and bites her own finger. With that, the weapon grows much stronger, pulsing with red bloody energy. But the power seems to be too much for her, and she trembles in pain from the effort. Ji-won screams desperately, telling Officer Kong to stop because it's too dangerous. Then Maru runs towards her, trying to stop her from doing something crazy. He reaches her and holds her tightly, trying to pry the weapon from her hand. On impact, the blood blade snaps in half, breaking with a loud crack. Chana is in total shock, unable to believe her weapon has been destroyed. Her eye reflects the drawing on the wall, and a tear streams down her face. Just then, the wall with the happy family drawing begins to crack and tremble. The wall with the drawing shatters, throwing Maru and Chana out of the room. With the impact, the house's movement stops and the team realizes the danger has passed. Maru gets up a bit dizzy and sees that Chana has fainted on the floor after everything. Seeing this, Jiwon runs to help, asking if Officer Kong is okay after the fall. But Maru explains that she lost a lot of blood, which is why she passed out. He then wonders what got into her to have such a desperate reaction. That's when Jiwon reveals a secret, telling him that this is Chana's grandmother's house. Shocked, he learns that her grandmother and brother were killed here by anicaps. It's explained that she only survived because she managed to absorb the monster's powers. With this, Maru finally understands the reason for his partner's desperation. Chana remains unconscious, recovering after using so much power at once. Yoseok notes that luckily, the house didn't disappear completely after the attack. He warns that they need to get out of there before the walls start closing in again. But Ji-won picks up a piece of the wall and asks if they know a certain saying. With a smile, she says that slow and steady wins the race as she gets an idea. The team takes turns attacking the walls, but the house continues to withstand the blows. With a knife, Eden tries to cut a hole, but the material seems indestructible. He then shouts in frustration saying it's useless and they'll never get out of there like this. After a while, everyone is exhausted and panting without any results. Maru finishes his turn and throws the knife on the ground completely out of strength, but Eden shakes him, telling him to get up because his turn to attack had come again. He gets up complaining that his arm hurts and he's dying of hunger and thirst. With little choice, he picks up the knife again, ready for another round of strikes. Just then, Chana gets up and grabs her weapon, announcing that it's her turn now. Maru is surprised and says she needs to rest as she hasn't recovered yet, but with a serious look, she simply replies that it's no problem and she's fine. She then starts hitting the wall while Maru watches her closely, worried. He takes the opportunity to mention that he heard this was her grandmother's house. Then he says he found it strange that the place was so clean and that she must take care of it. He says he's waiting for an answer, but she just asks for what without stopping. She then reveals that she's waiting for the knackle that killed her family to return to this place. Maru is confused by her answer and asks how she can know that for sure. The scene shifts to a flashback, and we see a younger Chana trembling with pure fear. She's huddled in a corner, completely terrified of what's happening outside. A gigantic demonic knackle with a blood scythe had appeared. Back in the present, she explains that this specific knackle was very different. In the flashback, we see another creature, a dark silhouette with glowing eyes. The frightening figure approaches slowly, emanating an aura of pure terror. The tear in young Chana's eye reflects the image of that hideous monster. Then the creature's form becomes clearer, looking like some kind of shadow man. She says he was intelligent and had a purpose. He wasn't just there to kill. Chana reveals that a horde will invade in a year and he will return with them. Maru asks if that's why she, a level 7, is on the island's team. Then she faces him asking if he disapproves of her only caring about her revenge. But he says no, and that he's not here out of duty either, and that the salary is good. Chana says he's going to Seoul because they pay much better there, leaving Maru shocked. It's revealed that she saw Maru talking to Director Ildu that day in the forest. She starts to say that he knows the reason because he is a specific type of person. But suddenly, the house starts to shake again, interrupting their conversation. Yoseok and Jiwon are startled by the tremor and wonder if the house is moving. The entire team then runs into the hallway as the walls start closing in again. They run desperately through the house as everything around them begins to crumble. Maru bites his lip with curiosity as he really wanted to know what she was going to say. The next morning, the sun rises and the house seems to have returned to normal for now. The team crouches, exhausted, and Eden asks if the movement has finally stopped for good. Yoziak sighs and asks when the captain will arrive to save them from this situation. But Ji-won explains that he must have gotten held up in Busan and won't be back anytime soon. In the corner, Officer Kim is still passed out on the floor, not moving at all. Maru and Eden just stare at their colleague, not believing he's still sleeping. He then laments that they're killing themselves to escape, and Kim is just there taking a nap. The team is shocked to see that the house is moving again, and so quickly. Maru turns in a panic and asks if they shouldn't wake up Officer Kim, but then he screams in shock as Officer Kim stands up, his face covered in mold. With a smile, Kim announces that his time-consuming work must finally be ready. Just then, the locked bedroom door makes a sound as if it's unlocking. Then the knackle stumbles out, screaming in pain from something. The team surrounds Kim, asking what power he used to pull that off. He explains that his power is mold spores and that he's the slow assassin. The team celebrates, saying he's amazing and that they misjudged him the whole time. But Eden cuts the party short, warning that it's no time to talk and pointing ahead. The knackle is right in front of them, crying and screaming in pain from the mold. Suddenly, strange hand-shaped shadows appear at the front door. Then, several knackle heads start emerging from the door, all looking the same. The creatures multiply rapidly, forming a horde of monsters in front of them. With that, a crowd of knackles starts running out of the room, shouting hermit. Maru yells that it's not a hermit but a whole gang. He despairs as they have no idea how to fight so many level 7 knackles. Without warning, the horde of clones charges towards them ready to attack. Chana then yells for Officer Nam to hide the team while she prepares to fight. Obeying the order, he activates his power and instantly creates an invisibility field. With that, the entire team is protected inside a barrier hidden from the enemies. Meanwhile, Chana charges forward alone with a battle cry heading straight for the monsters. She lands a direct hit on the first clone using her blade to slice the enemy, but the hallway is too narrow and her blade gets stuck in the wall. Seizing the opportunity, one of them leaps towards her ready to pounce. She's furious with the situation, realizing the danger she's in. The knackle opens its mouth to attack, snarling and baring all its sharp teeth. But out of nowhere, Maru Han appears and bites the monster's neck hard. The creature screams in pain and surprise, completely shocked by the unexpected counterattack. With the bite, the monster's body begins to tremble and turn to dust. And in seconds, the clone completely disintegrates in Maru Han's arms. Yoziak screams in desperation, warning that the knackle is trying to bring the ceiling down on them. But Maru Han won't have it, and his eyes suddenly glow with an unknown power. He shouts and activates a mirror power, sending the dust back up into place. With his hands raised, he manages to hold up the ceiling, preventing it from collapsing. Yoziak is relieved and comments that despite sounding silly, his plan worked perfectly. But Maru Han warns that he can't move just as another monster appears behind him. Just then, Eden snaps the knackle's neck with a single swift blow. He tells Maru Han to hide in the barrier, saying he's just getting in the way. Maru Han gets scared and yells for him to be careful as the danger isn't over yet. But it's too late, and one of the clones bites down hard on Eden's shoulder. Enraged, Eden is surrounded by several other monsters grabbing him from all sides. Suddenly, beams of light shoot out from him, hitting and piercing the clones around him. That's when the Nacho's true form is revealed, a giant terrifying spider. The scene shifts to focus on Ju Huanyun, who activates a special power in her glasses. Yoziak shouts for Eden to go help Chana, saying they'll protect Officer Han. Without hesitation, Chana charges at the clones, cutting down everyone in her path. Alongside her, Eden joins the fight and the two of them destroy the enemies in the blink of an eye. They continue to fight, relentlessly carving a path through the horde of monsters. Meanwhile, Maru Han and Yoziak watch everything, completely confused by the situation. They even joke that they're doing their part just by not hiding. Using her power, Ji-won realizes that all the clones are coming from the same room in the house. She comments to Maru Han that it's strange and that there must be something important in there. Taking the hint, he starts running and Yoziak yells, asking where he's going. Maru Han charges forward, heading towards the room where the monsters were coming from. With a determined look, he shouts for them to let him into the room right now. Chana and Eden look at each other, understanding what he planned to do with this whole crazy idea. With a combined attack, the two of them clear a path through the clones for him to pass. Maru-Han takes the opening and leaps over everyone, diving straight into the room. Inside, he spins and creates a whirlwind of energy, ready to attack the source. But when he looks up, he's completely shocked, not understanding what he's seeing. He freezes when he sees the room is filled with petrified, motionless bodies. At the center of it all, he finds the original Knuckles' body, the true source of the power. Enraged, he curses the monster for hiding in there, while sending its clones out to fight. Maru-Han raises his hands and says that if this is what the monster wants, it's gonna get it. Seeing that everything is about to collapse, Maru-Han runs to escape the trap. The hole he entered through begins to close, revealing itself to be a kind of trapdoor. His face twists in pain as he feels the pressure of being trapped in that place. The passage closes quickly with Eden and Chana watching desperately from above. They shout for Maru to run, and Eden reaches out his hand to try and pull him out. At the last second, Maru-Han extends his arm trying to reach his colleague's hand. And finally, their hands meet and he's saved just in time. With all his strength, Eden pulls Maru-Han up, saving him at the very last second. He throws Maru's body to the floor just as the room collapses right behind them. The two of them lie panting on the floor, exhausted after all the tension of the mission. In the hallway, the rest of the team celebrates with relief, shouting that it's finally over. Jaiwon and Yosek praise Maru, saying his mirror power was simply incredible. But Chana just watches the scene from a distance with a very serious and thoughtful expression. The hallway is now empty and silent with the dust slowly settling. The scene changes to a flashback showing Chana having a happy dinner with her family. Back in the present, Maru-Han approaches calling for Officer Chana to talk. He explains that he can no longer use the power since the original Knuckle is dead. This means he needs a new source of dust to be able to keep fighting. So he starts eating the monster's dust, leaving Yoseok completely disgusted. After finishing, Maru wipes his mouth, completely ignoring his colleague's reaction. He says it's a good thing there's still dust left in the house for him to use again. With his hands, he starts gathering all the dust from the floor to restore his power. Eden and the others are shocked, not understanding what Maru-Han is trying to do. He goes to the wall and starts pushing, trying to fix the hole he made. Maru grumbles that there isn't enough dust but keeps pushing to fix it. But then Chana stops him, touching his arm and saying that's enough. She thanks him for his help, and the two of them look at each other in silence for a moment. With a slight smile on her face, she seems to have finally found some peace. They both look at the now repaired wall with sunlight streaming through the window. Her family's drawing is now intact, like a final memory of that place. The scene changes, and we're now at the team's office sometime after the incident. Captain Diakman Go arrives, all excited, saying he's back with a surprise for everyone. But he finds it strange to see the office completely empty with no one at their desks. He takes off his glasses, wondering where everyone has gotten off to this time. Then he looks towards the break room, thinking the team might be in there. He tries to open the door but realizes the handle is locked from the inside. Suddenly, his phone starts to ring. It's a call from Director Il Du Jong. Captain Diakman answers the call, asking what Director Jong wants with him. On the other end, the director questions why Maru-Han refused the offer to join the Soul Team. Diakman then gives a slight smirk, as if he already knew to that question. The scene reveals that Chana and Jaiwon were sleeping together, resting peacefully in the room. From this, he concludes that Maru refused because he felt at home with the team. The scene cuts with a quick blow like a flash from a violent memory. Maru's body is then torn apart by a dark power completely trapping him, and a desperate voice screams his name echoing amidst the chaos of the vision. But the scene flashes back 7 hours showing Maru-Han yawning sleepily. He walks to work wondering how he came to hate his job so quickly. His feet feel heavy as he's still exhausted from the fight against the Knuckle. Suddenly, a horn honks and he looks back with an annoyed expression. A white luxury car stops right in front of him, drawing everyone's attention. Inside the vehicle, Eden Seon-woo stares at him with his typical look of superiority. A quick flashback shows Eden and Chana yelling for him to run and save himself, but Maru approaches with a fake smile, asking for a ride to work. With a cold expression, Eden simply tells him to screw off and get lost. Then he speeds off, leaving Maru behind, fuming at the situation. Shortly after, Yosek walks up and comments on the car, finding the whole thing very strange. The two walk together, agreeing that Eden has the worst attitude ever. Yoseok remarks that Eden might be handsome and rich, but his personality ruins it all and he probably has no friends. They both burst out laughing, but Maru thinks to himself that deep down he's really jealous of the guy. The scene then changes, showing the front of the team's office on another workday. When they arrive, they sneak in, giving a half-hearted good morning to everyone there. Just then, Captain Diakman greets him excitedly, calling him a level 7 Nacalist. Maru is completely confused, asking the captain what this level 7 thing is all about. Then G1 explains that he devoured a Nacal of that level, congratulating him on the achievement. Excited, the captain gives him a hard slap on the back, saying he's leveled up really fast. Despite the pain, Maru is happy as he feels like he's finally getting some recognition. Yosek comments that his devouring power is incredible since he's the only one who can grow. With renewed spirits, Maru slams his fist on the table filled with new determination. But Eden kills the mood, telling everyone to stop chatting and get back to work. Maru gets annoyed, feeling that Eden hates him now that he's gotten stronger. Yosek tries to calm him down, touching his shoulder to get him to let it go. Suddenly, Chana appears behind him and asks to speak with him alone for a moment. Chana goes to a vending machine on the rooftop, getting something for both of them. They sit on a bench and Maru asks what she wanted to talk to him about. She seems a bit awkward, but thanks him for what he did at her grandmother's house. He says it was nothing, but then she mentions that she's sure of one thing now. She gets closer to him and says she now understands what she felt when she met him. Maru's heart races, and he starts to think she's fallen for him, but she actually reveals that she always knew he wasn't a level 1. He's completely confused, not understanding what she's talking about. She explains that his healing and devouring powers were too strong for a rookie. Then Chana asks him to think about whether he'd ever encountered a Nacal before all this. He thinks it's impossible, wondering how he could forget such a significant event. Suddenly, a dark reddish aura starts to leak from a nearby building. The sinister energy grows stronger and stronger, creating tension in the air. Maru's heart starts to pound again, but this time out of pure terror. From the shadows, a monstrous foot emerges and he wonders what kind of creature it is. A terrifying creature emerges from the shadows with glowing eyes and huge sharp teeth. Frightened, he clutches his chest, thinking he's having another panic attack because of the vision. Startled, he drops the soda can he was holding, and it clatters to the ground. Chana approaches concerned, asking what's happening and if he's okay. He grabs his head, saying that he sometimes sees these strange and scary things. To calm him, she holds his hand firmly, trying to bring him back to reality. Then Chana assures him they're safe because she's there to protect him from everything. Maru gets flustered and blushes at her sudden closeness, unsure how to react. Seeing his reaction, she's certain there's some secret in Maru's past. But then the captain arrives and breaks the mood, asking what's going on between them. Maru panics immediately, denying everything and gesturing desperately. Then Chana stands up saying there's no point in dating since they're all going to die anyway. Her response hits him like a stab and he says he has zero interest in it. He's left wondering if her lack of interest is just in him or in dating in general. The disappointment is so great that he just slumps on the bench completely crushed. The captain makes fun of Maru for being rejected, but he feels strange about the situation. Meanwhile, Chana just stares at the horizon, lost in her own thoughts. The scene shifts back to the office where the workday is coming to an end. Then G1 announces there's 1 hour left and tells everyone to check the dust meters. With that, the team gets ready to head out on another routine mission in the mountains. And so, Chana and Maru walk up the hill together to check the equipment. Maru feels awkward, thinking the captain made things weird between them. They finally reach the meter, and Chana starts to note down the machine's data. With a digital pen, she records all the important information on her tablet. Maru thinks they need to focus on surviving, leaving this nonsense aside for now. He worries as they know almost nothing about how the Nacals really operate. Suddenly, a phone starts to ring, and they wonder where the sound is coming from. Chana realizes it's an emergency call and answers the device immediately. On the other end, Yoseok's voice warns that the captain has been caught by a Nacal. Badly injured, he tries to say where the monster went, but the call sounds menacing. Chana yells into the phone, desperately trying to talk to Officer Nam, who doesn't answer. She hangs up, unable to believe what just happened, leaving Maru confused. Chana explains that a Nacal defeated the captain who was a level 10, shocking Maru. He warns that the monster is heading their way and the two prepare for a fight. At that, Chana draws her weapon knowing this enemy is strong enough to defeat a veteran. A strange silhouette appears in the dust, slowly approaching the pair. They're on high alert, watching the creature step out of the shadows right in front of them. Then the Neckle reveals itself, a bizarre figure with a hole in its head that says hello. Maru and Chana are in shock as they've never seen a monster like this be able to speak. The creature then bows, asking if they would be open to a conversation. Maru Han is in shock, unable to believe a Knackle can actually speak. But then Chana explains that this is a language Knackle, a very rare type. The creature then extends its hand, saying it doesn't want to fight, just talk peacefully. Maru, still suspicious, asks what they could possibly talk about right now. Chana warns him not to speak with the monster, reminding him of the phone trap, but he insists, saying this is their only chance to learn about their enemies. Ignoring her warnings, he turns to the monster and asks where it came from. The creature then responds in a sinister voice that they are from the abyss. Maru is confused by the answer as he has never heard of this place before. With a frightening smile, the Knackle reveals that the abyss is at the bottom of hell. He explains that sinners go there, condemned to eternal darkness. The mention of their lives leaves Maru even more shocked and curious about the revelation. His heart races as he begins to understand the terrible meaning behind it. And the monster confirms his suspicion, revealing that the Knackles were once people. Maru Han and Chana Kong are completely shocked by the monster's terrible revelation. He can't believe the Knackles were once people, remembering all the attacks. Then he starts to feel sick, thinking about what he's been eating all this time. Overcome with disgust, he can't hold it in and vomits right there in front of everyone. The Knackle then points at him and asks if it can ask a question now. Even though he's scared, Maru Han asks what the bizarre creature's question is. But then Chana grabs his arm, trying to stop him from continuing the conversation. She yells at him to stop talking to the monster, warning that it's dangerous. Chana says it might seem polite, but they shouldn't trust it at all. She remembers that it was the one who attacked her friends, and she prepares to strike back. With a swift movement, she creates a blood scythe, ready to start the fight. Seeing the attack, the Knackle raises its hands and asks her to stop as it doesn't want violence, but she doesn't listen and leaps towards the monster, ignoring the warning. With a precise strike, she moves in to cut the creature down without a second thought. Just then, the monster reveals that killing it won't make up for her brother's death. Chana freezes in midair, shocked by the monster's revelation about her brother. But the Knackle stops her blade with a single finger, saying it will explain why, and with a smile, it says the boy's death is all her fault. Her heart pounds at the accusation while Maru desperately screams her name. The scene cuts to a flashback showing the moment of the monster's attack in the past. It's revealed that her younger brother stood in front of her to protect her. Even though he was scared, the boy shouts for his sister to run away from there right now. But the monster strikes him head-on, piercing his chest with a fatal blow. A young Chana crawls on the ground, desperately trying to get to him. She holds him in her arms, watching her brother die right in front of her. His hand goes limp, showing it was already too late to save him. Heartbroken, she screams in pain, unable to believe the terrible loss. Back in the present, Chana is in shock, blood dripping from her mouth. The monster continues to taunt her, causing her to fall to her knees, too weak to fight. Seeing her condition, Maru rushes to help her, shouting Officer Kang's name. Maru manages to catch Chana before she falls, shocked by what happened. He realizes she's been stabbed in the heart and the bloodstain keeps growing. Maru looks at the monster, not understanding how it attacked since he saw no movement. But the Knackle ignores the situation and invites him to continue their conversation, but he refuses. Angrily, Maru kneels beside her and tells the creature to shut up right now. Then he stands up, furious, shouting that the monster has no right to talk about her. With a punch full of hatred, he hits the Knackle's face with all his might. The impact is so strong that the monster is thrown far away, crashing hard onto the ground. But Maru doesn't stop there and gets ready to continue the attack without letting up. Just then, the Knackle taunts him, reminding him that he's the one Chana rejected before. Hearing this, Maru stops mid-swing, realizing he can't move. Suddenly, an invisible attack passes through him as fast as a shadow in the dark. He feels a sharp pain in his heart as if he's been stabbed in the same place. Outraged, he shouts that he wasn't rejected, spitting blood from the pain. With his vision blurring, he thinks he didn't even have time to get to the broken-hearted part. Wounded, Maru Han tries to convince himself that he just admires her strength and calmness. But Chana is crying on the ground, lamenting that she failed as an older sister to her brother. Hearing that, he's in shock with blood running down his mouth. Then he spits out a lot of blood, realizing it's some kind of broken heart attack. The knackle picks up a rock, commenting that emotions make humans very weak. It approaches, saying it never felt that, not even when it was still human. Then the monster yells at Maru, asking why he isn't answering. It understands that feelings prevent them from winning, and that's why the captain lost. The knackle then gets tired of it and raises the rock, ready to end everything at once. Desperate, Maru thinks that only a psychopath with no emotions could save them now. But suddenly, the rock is stopped in midair by a completely invisible force. With the impact, the knackle's body begins to crack and shatter all over. A black-gloved hand appears out of nowhere, calmly touching Maru's shoulder. It's Eden who asks with contempt why the level 1 is lying on the ground. Maru is relieved, recognizing the team's psychopath, their salvation. Eden grabs Maru by the collar, telling him to stop smiling, but the knackle says the attack just tickled. He's surprised to see the monster is still alive after such a powerful blow. The creature then cracks its neck back into place, saying its vocal cords are strong. Then the knackle calls them low-level, saying they need to try harder to beat it. Enraged, the two prepare to fight together, cursing the talkative enemy. Maru Han and Eden Xianwu finally come face to face with the knackle in the middle of the desert. With his chest wounded, Maru Han warns that the monster uses memories to attack the heart. But Eden arrogantly ignores him, telling him to just sit back and watch the show. Annoyed, Maru Han thinks his colleague is as crazy as the monster and decides to root for him. Then Eden begins to stretch, cracking his knuckles and preparing for combat. His strength is so immense that he starts to crack the ground with just his movements. The knackle attempts a mental attack, saying that Eden's famous father would never respect him. But he keeps moving forward, unfazed, crushing a clone of the monster in his path. At that, the creature reveals that Eden's mother took her own life, exposing his trauma. Hearing this, Eden's calm expression finally falters, showing he's been hit. A quick flashback shows the tragic scene he witnessed in his childhood. Maru Han is shocked as he never imagined what had happened to his colleague. He realizes he misjudged him, thinking Eden was just a spoiled rich kid. Seeing that Eden has his limits, Maru Han thinks maybe it's better if he steps into the fight himself. But he stops, surprised, when he notices that Eden is completely frozen in front of the monster. Eden cracks a sinister smile and questions the monster, asking what the problem was. Then he charges forward, yelling that it wasn't his fault his mother was weak. With a cold gaze, he declares that in this world, only the strongest survive. The knackle laughs, saying that in that case, Eden is the one who won't survive in the end. Continues the taunt, claiming that Eden is even weaker than Maru. This unexpected comparison leaves Eden completely shocked and speechless for a moment. But suddenly, Maru Han throws himself in front of him, intercepting the monster's attack. The knackle's sharp tongue pierces Maru's arm, who managed to protect his partner. Even injured, he says he finally understood how the attack worked. He explains that the monster distracts you with trauma, then attacks with its sharp tongue. At that moment, Chana Kong appears in the blink of an eye and lands a precise slash. She slices off the knackle's tongue, making the creature scream in pain and agony. With the situation under control, she turns and asks if the two guys were okay. Chana strikes a pose with her hair flying, looking like an action movie hero. Maru Han is completely smitten, thinking she was the coolest woman in the world. Maru Han mentally scolds himself, thinking it was no time to be drooling over her. Seeing his colleague still in shock, he shakes him hard and yells for him to wake up. But Eden kept repeating that he was weaker than Maru, leaving the rookie confused. At this, Maru lets out a small laugh, realizing the veteran was jealous of him. To get a reaction, he starts kicking the fallen Eden, telling him to forget the monster. Maru then yells that he's great, but that Eden was much better and stronger. Hearing the praise, Eden's expression changes, and he finally seems to snap out of his trance. He gives a smug smile, saying Maru was level 1 and very easy to manipulate. With the team regrouped, Eden suggests they finish off the monster before it gets dark. Maru watches the knackle and warns they can't get close with its tongue around. Chana then steps forward, saying she'll fight while the creature isn't talking. But Eden stops her, saying she wouldn't be the one to do it now. Suddenly, Chana looks at her jacket and realizes her wound hasn't healed yet. Eden explains that the heart attack only heals if they kill the original knackle. Seeing the situation, Maru Han decides to act and rushes the monster with everything he has. Maru Han starts to taunt the monster, acting as bait to draw its attention. Seeing that the plan worked, he realizes that now is his chance to attack. He yells for Eden to take care of Chana because he's going to use his new powers on the creature. But Eden calls him an idiot, explaining that his powers only work in enclosed spaces. Even wounded Chana screams desperately, telling Eden to go help Maru right now. Without a second thought, Eden shoots off at high speed to reach his endangered colleague. He runs as fast as he can, trying to get there in time to prevent a tragedy. Meanwhile, Maru-han narrowly dodges the Knuckle's tongue, which almost catches him. He panics when he realizes there are no buildings nearby to use his power. Not knowing what to do, he suddenly hears the sound of a horn right behind him. A white car slams on the brakes, kicking up dust and stopping beside the path. Eden opens the door and yells for Maru to come, offering an unexpected escape route. Maru then throws himself into the car. Eden slams the car door shut, sealing the space for their plan to work. At this, the Knuckle charges furiously, ready to destroy the vehicle and catch its prey. From the monster's point of view, the car seemed like an easy trap to break. But from inside, Maru-han shouts, drawing the Knuckle directly to him. The creature then throws itself against the car, falling right into the agent's plan. Eden seizes the chance and slams the door shut, locking Maru inside. He yells that it was now closed, confirming the car was the perfect trap. Trapped in the car, Maru-han could finally use his real power. He smiles desperately, thinking that this was it, his definitive end. Outside, the monster's tongue whips through the air, ready to pierce the car's body. But suddenly, Maru is completely cut off. The monster continues to advance, not understanding the force holding it in place. Emerging from inside the car, Maru grabs the creature's neck with immense force. The Knuckle is completely paralyzed, not knowing how he had escaped the car. In the glass's reflection, Maru faces the monster, now with the full advantage on his side. Inside the car, his power activates, creating dozens of identical clones. With that, a crowd of arms bursts out of the window ready to attack the creature. The Knuckle panics as it's grabbed from all sides by the hungry clones. Then, the swarm of clones devours the monster without mercy in a scene of pure terror. The Knuckle screams desperately as the clones continue their relentless attack. Slowly, Maru's copies drag the creature into the car. Outside, Eden pounds on the glass, screaming desperately for Maru to get out of there. He doesn't get why that idiot isn't getting out, making him even more frantic. At that moment, Chana runs up and worriedly asks what happened to Maru. But inside, the Knuckle tries to reason with them, begging them to stop. It then compares him to his father, saying Maru was just as violent as he was. The provocation triggers a painful flashback, showing his father abusing him as a child. The memory of fear and pain makes his heart ache, bringing it all back. He remembers how his father held him tightly while he struggled, unable to escape. His father would just say that he had to do it, showing no remorse. The monster continues asking if he felt relieved when his father disappeared. Stunned, Maru starts slapping himself trying to break out of the mental trance. But the psychic attack is so strong that his ears begin to bleed uncontrollably. In agony, he screams with all his might, telling the monster to stop messing with his heart. Seeing the agent's desperation, the Knuckle cracks a wide sadistic smile. Then, the creature opens its mouth, preparing to continue the relentless mental assault. But Maru yells that its attack is useless if he can't hear and lunges forward. His clones grab the monster's mouth forcefully, trying to silence it once and for all. With that, one of the clones clenches its fist, concentrating all its energy for the final blow. An intense light erupts from inside the car, which begins to be crushed by the pressure. Outside, Chana panics and screams desperately for him to stop. Eden quickly grabs her and pulls her back, telling her to get away from the danger. The vehicle continues to be compressed until it can't take any more and breaks apart, and then everything explodes in a shower of blood, scattering debris everywhere. Chana notices that with the explosion, the monster's dust had finally disappeared. The two of them stare at the destroyed car, processing the tragic end of the battle. She runs to the wreckage, saying they need to get Maru out of there right now. But Eden stops her, saying regretfully that there was no way he could have survived. Chana turns with a determined look, saying his healing power was special. Chana tears at the metal, yelling that they need to get Maru out before the dust disappears. She tries to clear a path through the wreckage, while Eden just watches the scene in silence. But then, he also grabs a piece of metal, determined to help his partner. Furious, he yells at Maru, calling him an idiot for crushing the car with himself inside. Meanwhile, Maru was floating in a dark void, unable to feel his own body. He could no longer see the notchel nearby and wondered if he had finally defeated it. But then, he remembers the last words the creature said before it disappeared. The monster had tried to warn him about something, starting to talk about and then he remembers the final word the knackle shouted, "Abyss." The creature warns him that the abyss was looking for him and that he should remember its call. Maru is confused by the warning, not understanding what this talk of a call meant. Suddenly, the Nacho spirit screams with all its might, telling him to wake up for good. Startled, Maru wakes up back in the real world, completely disoriented and scared. And suddenly, his stomach started to rumble very loudly, and a dark, monstrous hand emerges from within Maru's body. This creature of darkness lunges at a young Maru Han, pinning him to the ground. The monster stares him down with its sharp teeth, ready to deliver the final strike. Completely terrified, Maru Han wonders what the hell that terrifying thing was. The creature growls right in his face, showing its full murderous intent. With a sinister voice, it asks if he finally remembered it now. The image leaves Maru paralyzed. In a flashback, we see a young Maru trembling with fear as he faces a great threat. It was another knackle, an even more savage and monstrous version of the creature. The monster licks its teeth, hungry and ready to devour its victim. Little Maru tries to pull his father, warning him it's a monster and they need to run. But his father grabs him forcefully by the shirt with an expression of pure rage. He yells no and that Maru was the one who would fight that thing. The boy is confused, asking in a panic why he had to do it. With a cold look, his father explains that he needed to obtain the knackle's special power. He explains that this is the only way to reach the dreaded abyss. With that, the father simply throws his son to the ground right in front of the creature. Little Maru is paralyzed, trembling and crying in sheer terror on the dirt floor. And then, the monster lunges forward with a savage roar, attacking the boy without mercy. Back in the present, Eden notices there's still a bit of dust left and decides to use it. He tries to throw the dust on the car, but it seems there's too little to heal Maru. Desperate, Eden runs to the wreckage to try and do something to help. But inside, Maru Han's body was completely crushed and bloodied. Eden and Chana look at the scene in shock, unable to believe the destruction they see. Regretfully, Eden says they were too late as there was no more dust to heal him. Chana kneels beside the car while Eden turns his face away, having lost all hope. But she doesn't give up and grabs Maru's hand, asking if he can still hear her. Suddenly, his hand squeezes hers tightly, leaving Chana completely surprised. They watch in disbelief, seeing that something strange was happening to his body. He was creating his own yellow dust, just like a knackle. At that, his bones and muscles begin to reconstruct at an absurd speed. And then, Maru stands up fully healed with a fierce look and glowing eyes. Eden and Chana are shocked as Maru is almost completely healed in seconds. But right after healing, he simply faints and collapses onto the floor. The boy starts drooling and they realize he's snoring loudly, fast asleep. They just stand there in silence, completely baffled by what just happened. Furious, Eden starts jumping on him, screaming and demanding to know what the hell he is. Maru wakes with a start, aching all over, confused as to why his teammate is beating him up. Eden grabs him and demands to know why he releases yellow dust, just like a knackle. Maru then remembers what happened, mentioning the devouring knackle from his past. He explains that he didn't recently gain this devouring power, but has had it since he was a child. As the memory returns, he reveals that it was his own father who forced him to do it. In his mind, he wonders once again why his father did that to him. The memory hits him hard and he starts to feel sick, vomiting on the floor. Eden backs away, demanding he say something and explain what's going on. Pakhana stops him, explaining that Maru is having a panic attack and to leave him alone. She then gives Eden a serious look, warning him that whatever happened here stays between them. Eden argues that Maru is part monster and they need to notify headquarters. But Chana tries to calm him down, saying they don't know why he creates the dust. Worried, Eden asks what they would do if Maru became as dangerous as the knackle. Chana looks him in the eye and states with certainty that she trusts Maru and that he would never do that. Eden turns his back to them, still unsure what to think of the situation. He then pretends not to care, saying he doesn't give a damn what happens to the rookie. Eden takes a step forward, but still glances sideways at the scene, watching everything. Despite her earlier confidence, Chana now wonders if she can really trust him. The scene shifts to the next day, and we see a tired Maru dozing off on the subway. He thinks about the devouring knackle and wonders if he's turning into a monster too. A tear rolls down his cheek as he feels more and more lost. But suddenly, he sees his own reflection as a monster in the glass and is terrified. He stumbles and falls backward, startling all the other passengers around him. A familiar voice asks what he's doing, telling him not to act weird on the subway. It's Officer Nam, and Maru apologizes saying he thought he saw something. Maru tries to ask his colleague for help, but he's immediately cut off with Nam stating he doesn't talk to people from work. He's upset as his colleague was the only one he felt comfortable with. But suddenly, Yoziak's phone rings and he answers a call from a friend. The scene changes to a bar where Yoziak is meeting his friend as planned. Already a bit tipsy, he tells his friend Wooju to request a transfer and get off that team. Wooju agrees but soon notices someone else is with them and asks who it is. It's Maru, who's chugging a glass, and Yoziak asks why he followed him. Drunk, Maru explains that things have been weird and he didn't want to be alone. He's excited to meet someone from another team and asks why Wooju wants to leave. With a sigh, Wooju replies that his team is a bit difficult to deal with. But Yoziak gets angry, saying that's a lie and that they're picking on him. Maru is shocked to realize it's a case of workplace bullying. Yoziak says Wooju is too nice and that he just needed to mess up to get out. It's revealed that Yoziak was also on that team and was the one who suffered the most there. Furious, Maru yells asking what kind of team would do that. Yoziak says they are the worst kind of human trash, a group of very bad people. We are shown a silhouette of the team, a group of intimidating-looking agents. Maru becomes thoughtful, wondering what he meant by bad people. Then Yoziak warns that there are many bad people in the service, as dangerous as any knackle. He remembers Eden's concern about the risk of him becoming a monster. With this, Maru grows fearful, wondering if that will happen to him too. The scene changes, and we see Maru carrying his drunk friend, Wooju, on his back. He complains to Yoziak, asking how much further they have to go. Then they finally arrive at their destination, the friend's parents' noodle shop. Yoziak says they just need to drop Wooju off and then they can finally leave. But as he opens the door, he freezes, completely paralyzed and shocked by what he sees. His old team, the same one that bullied him, is all gathered inside. Without a second thought, Yoziak turns and runs, desperate to get away. But in his haste, he slams right into a tall, strong man at the door. The man smiles, saying they were looking for Wooju and ended up finding Yoziak too. Without hesitating, the red-haired man lands a brutal punch on Yoziak's face. He stomps on Yoziak's head, screaming that he should have requested a transfer quietly. The brute keeps kicking him, saying he'll pay for trying to screw them over. But then, Maruhan grabs him by the arm, pointing out that they work on the same side. Annoyed by the interruption, the man glares at Maru and asks who the hell he is. Maru confidently introduces himself, saying he's from the Gangwa Island team, along with Officer Nam. The man lets out a mocking laugh, asking if that's the so-called team full of losers. With that, he lands a heavy blow on Maru, yelling at him to never touch him again. The blow is so strong that Maru is sent flying, crashing hard onto the shop floor. The attacker approaches and curses him out, calling the rookie a piece of trash. At the same time, another team member kicks Josek, shouting that he hates weak people like him. They continue to beat the man mercilessly, taking advantage of him already being on the ground. The bully then turns to Maru, saying his parents must regret the day he was born. Hearing this, something in Maru snaps, and a golden dust begins to pour from his mouth. Inside the noodle shop, the already tense situation was about to explode. With his eyes glowing in fury, Maruhan slowly stands up, ready for a fight. Meanwhile, the bully kept punching Yoziak, screaming that he snitched on them. He says he swore to kill Yoziak if he ever found him, and now he was going to keep that promise. The other gang members mock him, saying they didn't expect to find him there. A powerful aura envelopes Maru as he rises with a completely different presence. Suddenly, the shop's door slides open and a mysterious figure enters. The brute turns around, confused about who was interrupting their fight. In the blink of an eye, the newcomer lands a solid punch right in the bully's face. The impact is so strong that the man flies back, shattering a table in the process. The rest of the team is in shock, wondering who the guy who just showed up was. It was Eden. He steps on the fallen bully and calls him a weakling from the Gangwa team. Maru, still transformed, slowly approaches his teammates, staring him down. But Eden pokes him, whispering that he'd kill him if he released his dust in here. He then feigns surprise, saying he followed him to make sure he didn't do anything stupid. In a quick flashback, it's shown that Eden decided to follow Maru after seeing him with Yosek on the subway. He found it suspicious and kept an eye on him, not understanding what the rookie was up to. But suddenly, he spots Chana on the other side of the car, also acting suspiciously. The agent was there watching everything even after saying she trusted Maru. Eden chuckles as both he and she were worried about the rookie. Back in the present, Chana arrives at the shop and asks what the hell is going on. She rushes to help Yoseok, who was on the floor, beaten and bruised, asking if he's okay. With a cold stare, she informs the other team that despite the attack, they're leaving. A woman from the other gang says they can't leave because her guy is hurt. Then their leader says that his former colleagues, they still have business to settle with Yoseok. Chana warns them, reminding them that everyone could be punished by headquarters for the fight. But the woman retorts saying they'd be the ones to blame in the end. At this, the brute gets enraged and yells that no one is getting out of that shop alive. He then leaps towards Eden, ready to end the fight once and for all. But Eden just smiles, saying that if there's going to be trouble, they might as well make it worthwhile. Seeing their chance, the attackers charge at Eden, surrounding him in the middle of the shop. Desperate, Maru Han tries to run to help, shouting his partner's name. But Chana stops him, yelling for him to stay put and not move. She warns him that he can't transform there as it would reveal his secret to everyone. With the shop in a mess, Chana kept supporting Yoseok, who was badly injured. Then she gets ready to fight, zipping up her jacket with a determined look. Just then, one of the bullies manages to grab Eden from behind, leaving him defenseless. Their leader lifts a stool, shouting that Eden is done for and that he's going to finish him. But suddenly, an object flies at high speed, cutting through the air like a projectile. The attack hits the brute square in the stomach, making him scream in pain. It was Chana, spinning a mop handle as if it were a fighting staff. With a precise strike, she hits the other guy's legs and he also falls to the ground. The two bullies roll in pain, screaming and cursing because of their injuries. Chana then warns them to stop now if they don't want to get hurt even more. Just then, their boss arrives, asking why they were fighting with civilians. The boss asks who she is, leaving Chana surprised by his sudden appearance. He then formally introduces himself, saying he is the captain of the Gajong Mountain team. Relieved, Chana introduces herself, explaining they are from Ganghwa Island and that there was a problem. She explains that his team attacked them and suggests that he, as the captain, should control them. But without warning, the captain lands a full-force punch on Chana's face. The blow throws her to the ground, leaving everyone shocked by the violence. He then says they aren't civilians and asks how she dares to hit his people. Yoseok is in disbelief as the captain slowly turns his face towards him. With a cynical smile, he greets Yoseok, saying it's been a while. Seeing this, Maru Han is shocked to realize his teammate has passed out on the floor. His heart races with anger and yellow dust starts coming out of his nose. The sight of Chana's bleeding face on the floor was the final trigger for him. Overcome by fury, Maru begins to transform right then and there, unable to control himself. Eden panics and desperately yells for Maru to stop it right now, but it was too late. Maru Han lunges forward with absurd speed, leaping at the captain. The man is completely shocked, unable to even react to the surprise attack. With a devastating blow, Maru smashes the captain's face, breaking all his bones. He continues the assault, crushing the man's body against the floor with brutal force. The captain falls unconscious as a cloud of dust rises from the point of impact. With golden dust floating around him, Maru reveals his wildest side. The other team is paralyzed with fear, not understanding the rookie's sudden transformation. Even Eden is confused, wondering where all that dust was coming from. Worried, Maru rushes to Chana to see if she's okay after the hit she took. She wipes the blood from her nose and scolds him, saying she told him not to use the dust. He apologizes, explaining he couldn't control himself because he got angry when they hit her. Maru chuckles, but the dust on his hands shows he was serious. Suddenly, the captain gets up, sniffing the golden dust with a crazed look in his eyes. He's amazed, having never seen anyone create yellow dust without being a knackle. With a sinister smile, he faces Maru and asks how he's able to do that. With a fake smile, the captain invites Maru Han to join his team. At that, Maru remembers what Yoseok said, that they were the worst kind of human trash. With a look of contempt, he refuses the invitation, saying he would never join them. The captain then pretends to be disappointed with the answer, finding it all a great pity. But right after, he breaks into a sinister grin, warning them that now he can't let them go. He points to the dust in the air and proposes an official fight between the two teams right there. The man shouts that he was tired of only fighting Nakles and wanted something different. The Manhwa team is completely shocked, not understanding the madness of that team. Suddenly, the other team begins to transform, revealing they are all monsters. Sitting in a chair, the captain orders everyone to line up, ready to lay down the rules. But Chana finds it ridiculous and isn't willing to follow his orders. He then points to their team, preparing to explain how the fight would work. It's explained that it would be one-on-one, and the winning team would take Yoseok as their prize. With that, the captain promises to forget what Yoseok did, leaving the young man trembling in fear. Then he turns to Maru and calls him a human knackle, leaving the rookie shocked. Maru can't believe it, as he never imagined his secret would be discovered so quickly. The man continues, threatening to tell headquarters about his power to create yellow dust, but he promises to keep his mouth shut if Maru agrees to participate in the fight. Chana realizes there's no arguing, thinking this captain is a joke. Eden even considers just knocking out the captain, ending this farce once and for all. But Chana warns him that the others wouldn't just stand by and it would turn into an ugly brawl. The captain says it's a friendly fight and the first one to give up loses. And with a cynical air, he adds the rule that killing is forbidden. The Manhwa team is disgusted, unable to believe the captain's audacity. But Eden takes off his cap, revealing an excited smile on his face. He says if that's how it is, they'll fight, as he's always wanted to face another Nakalist. Maru gets annoyed, saying he's just like the others, only thinking about fighting. But to everyone's surprise, Chana agrees with Eden, saying they should fight. However, she gives an order telling them to stall for as much time as possible. Maru doesn't understand the plan and asks why they need to buy time here. With a serious look, Chana says they'll see and asks who's going first. Eden steps forward, saying he'll go as he can't stand waiting any longer. On the other side, the captain asks who from his team will start the first fight. The man in sunglasses steps forward, revealing a bright yellow eye. In the reflection of his eye, the silhouette of a frightening monster is visible. He explains that his power is to break his own bones to attack his opponents. At that, the wooden man offers himself, saying he'll be the first to fight. He clenches his fist tightly, and his arm transforms into a deadly weapon. With a sadistic smile, he says he's been wanting to beat up Eden for a long time. The wooden man launches his attack, but Eden dodges the branches with great ease. He then cracks his knuckles with a confident air, unfazed by the enemy's power. Mockingly, he asks if that's all he's got as the branches disintegrated in the air. But the monster smiles and manages to grab his arm, revealing a new ability. He explains that he also controls the broken branches, trapping Eden completely. The branches tighten around his neck, trying to suffocate and immobilize him. The attacker warns that he's powerless now since he can't even move a finger. Then he asks with a smile if Eden is going to surrender like a coward now. But Eden replies that he can still break something even while all tied up. With absurd strength, he begins to break his own jaw from the inside. Using the bones as weapons, he breaks free and charges full force at the monster. In an instant, he grabs the enemy's neck, turning the tables completely in his favor. With a cold gaze, he asks what he thinks about starting by breaking a few vertebrae, and then he uses his power, shattering the monster's spine with a single touch. With a broken spine, the wooden man's legs give out and he collapses to the ground. Eden holds him firmly, telling him to stay on his feet and not pass out yet. With a cruel smile, he warns that now it's his next turn to broken. He tightens his fingers, but the wooden man screams in panic and tries to break free. Before he could do anything, Chana grabs his arm, stopping the attack. She yells at him, warning that if he kept going, he would end up killing the guy. The agent then declares the fight over, saying they won the first round. The wooden man starts vomiting from the pain, writhing and screaming on the ground. The captain just watches the scene, thoughtful, and with a calculating look on his face. He then accepts defeat and asks who will be the next to fight them. Chana slaps Eden on the back, complaining that he overdid it and didn't stall at all. With that, she steps forward herself and asks who the next challenger will be. The man with the yellow eye explains that she's an iron naturalist who uses her blood. The captain then chooses the woman on the team, saying she's the perfect opponent. She stretches, preparing for combat and showing off her defined muscles. Without hesitation, she rips her own shirt, revealing her body and a terrifying power. It's revealed to us that her power was to use her own ribs as sharp blades. Chana then proposes that they don't use their blades as it would be too dangerous. But suddenly, the woman's ribs emerge from her back, forming giant claws. With an air of contempt, she says she doesn't care and prepares to attack. At high speed, she charges straight towards Chana, ready to strike. Chana panics and bites her own arm, using her blood to create a sword. The two blades clash with a metallic sound, and the sword fight begins. Chana manages to defend herself, but the enemy's claws were much more resistant. In a swift move, one of the claws veers off and cuts through the air, heading straight for her. The blow hits her square in the stomach, opening a deep and dangerous gash. Desperate, she realizes that fighting head-on like this would get her nowhere. So Chana takes advantage of an attack and throws herself backward, creating distance between them. With a push, she stomps hard on the ground using all of her speed. The enemy defends with her claws, blocking her vision and waiting for the next attack. Chana approaches from behind and delivers a light cut just to make her opponent retreat. With a precise movement, Chana manages to scratch one of her opponent's claws. Using the distraction, she unleashes a flurry of cuts, leaving the enemy gravely wounded. The woman falls to the ground as her colleague worriedly asks if she's okay. Chana approaches and apologizes, saying she tried to hold back during the strike. Eden and Maru celebrate the victory, saying she stalled for exactly 10 seconds. Chana confesses that she's never fought a person before, as she's used to killing Nakles. The trio from Gangwa Island gathers, observing the opposing team's reaction. The man with the yellow eye is shocked, as he thought they were just a bunch of weaklings. The captain then realizes that now only Maruhan is left to fight for their team. But Chana interrupts, saying it's 2-0 and the battle is already over. The captain denies it, as he only watched everything because he wanted to see Maru's power in action. He then says the next fight is the main event and it will be worth 3 points. But to everyone's surprise, Maruhan accepts the 3-point proposal on the spot. He sets one condition, saying he'll only fight if it's against the team's captain. Seeing his blunder, his colleagues panic, calling Maru a complete idiot. The captain cracks a smile, accepting the rookie's challenge with great confidence. But suddenly, the other agent's eye begins to glow and his heart races. In his eye, the silhouette of a monstrous creature could be seen forming. The vision showed the creature tearing everything apart as if it were trying to escape. With that, the man screams in pain while his partner holds him, not understanding what's happening. The man wondered if Maru was even human because the boy's aura was gigantic, leaving the powerful director in complete shock. The captain says he can't fight since he's the referee of their competition, but he offers a deal saying he'll let Maru fight the strongest on the team. At that moment, Wuju is dragged inside, confused about what's happening. The captain calms him down, telling him his parents have already gone home and he has nothing to worry about. With that, he shoves the boy at Maru, claiming he's the strongest one. Yoziak tries to intervene, desperately pleading with the captain to stop this madness. But he tells Yoziak to shut up, warning that he'll take care of him later. Then he promises to let Wuju transfer if he can fight well now. Maru and Wuju stand face to face, preparing for the fight that would decide everything. Suddenly, Maru feels something strange, as if he's losing control of his body. He wonders if this was the power of the last knackle he devoured in the forest. The monster's power begins to attack Wuju's mind with insults and past traumas. The boy can't take the pressure and starts crying, swallowed by the memories. As this happens, the boy's memories are expelled, affecting everyone around the store. Maru feels a spasm, realizing something terrible was about to happen. Without control, Maru feels he's going to say something horrible, that his tongue is about to become a knife. In the monster's voice, he reveals that Wuju felt happy he wasn't the target of the bullying. The boy is in shock, never expecting his darkest secret to be revealed. Maru continues the attack, desperately trying to stop, but the power is too strong. His sharp tongue strikes Wuju, piercing the boy's chest before he can react. He rushes to help, saying his power acted on its own and that he wasn't in control. Injured, Wuju apologizes, likely for feeling relieved at his friend's suffering. But suddenly, the boy retaliates and Maru doesn't understand what's happening. It's explained that Wuju had the power of the poison knackle and he has now activated it. The poison begins to burn Maru's skin, and he screams in pain and agony on the floor. Seeing this, his teammates run to help but are stopped by the captain. The man tells them to back off as the two were still fighting and the battle wasn't over. He approaches the fallen Maru and asks how long he can take the pain. He warns that the poison will melt his organs and asks if he wants to give up. But even in his suffering, Maru firmly says he has no intention of giving up the fight. The captain tells him to stop wasting time and show his true power already. He warns Wuju that if he wants to win, he'll have to attack for real. But with his face melting, Maru says he doesn't care about his rules. And then, he charges at the captain with everything he's got, yelling that he's going to end this. The captain faces him, saying that's not allowed and he should follow the rules. He says the game has already started and he can't just attack the referee. With a swift move, the captain tightens his own tie, yelling 8 times. Suddenly, an invisible force slams Maru to the ground without him understanding why. The others on the team are also knocked down by the same force, unable to react. Even the members of the other team are affected, falling to the ground and feeling the weight. Eden despairs, feeling like she can't breathe under the pressure. On the ground, Yoziak struggles to breathe, feeling his lungs being crushed. He warns the others to breathe slowly as that was the captain's power. It is revealed he was level 9 and his power was to control gravity. With everyone on the floor, the captain says that now things were just how he likes it. The captain approaches the fallen Maru, finding the whole situation very interesting. He notices the poison has already healed and wonders how he did it so quickly. With an evil smile, he decides to increase the gravity only on Maru. The pressure crushes his spine, making the boy spit blood and scream in pain. The captain analyzes the dust, realizing that the more pain he feels, the more dust he creates. He then concludes that the knackle that gave Maru his power must be very special. Maru is confused by the word special, not understanding what he meant. Remembers that the monster he devoured had eyes, unlike the other knackles. But he struggles to get up, thinking he needs to deal with the situation first. With great difficulty, he decides he needs to use the power of the language knackle. He tries the attack, but the captain shows no reaction as if nothing affects him. Maru despairs, realizing the captain seems to be emotionally invincible. The man calls him a psychopath, saying he's the worst kind of person to be a naturalist. With that, he pulls out a knife, determined to investigate Maru's power more deeply. He says he hates not knowing things, and he's going to find out where the dust comes from. With the knife at Maru's neck, the captain asks where his power comes from. But suddenly, the knife shatters, releasing a bit of golden dust into the air. Eden shouts, now, giving the signal to Chana, who was just waiting for the chance. She quickly grabs a shard of glass, preparing to use it as an improvised weapon. With a clenched fist, she concentrates her energy to turn the shard into a blade. In a flip, she lunges at the captain, ready to strike with all her might. But he turns in time, dodging the blow and escaping the surprise attack. He then increases the gravity 20 times, unleashing all his power at once. The pressure is so intense that everyone collapses, unable to breathe properly. The captain steps on Chana's weapon as she lies on the floor, too weak to keep fighting. He explains that with increased gravity, the brain doesn't get enough blood and you pass out. Maru despairs, screaming his teammate's name, who is unconscious on the floor. Taking advantage of the distraction, the captain pulls the blood sword from Chana's arm. With the weapon in hand, he faces Maru and warns him that now the fight is just between them. With a sadistic smile, he tells Maru to get ready because they were going to have a lot of fun. On the verge of passing out, Maru thinks he needs to do something to escape the gravity. But suddenly, a knock on the door interrupts the fight, surprising the captain. With his sword in hand, he warns that the shop is closed, trying to send away whoever it is. Outside, the silhouette of a man forms against the glass door. A black goo starts to seep from under the door, spreading across the floor. The goo spreads and begins to float, lifting everyone on the ground into the air. Eden watches in fear, not understanding what the hell that strange black goo was. Almost unconscious, Chana laments that help had finally arrived too late. The captain from Gangwa Island had finally come to save his endangered team. He realizes the situation was bad and that things could get even worse. So he takes the chance to send a text message asking for backup. On his phone, he types, "We have a problem. We need you, Captain, asking for help." At the shop store, Captain Diakman-go watched the scene with a calm gaze. It's revealed that he possessed the power of the Knackle of Darkness, one of the rarest. Floating in the darkness, Maru wonders what's happening and where he is gone. With his power, Diakman-go traps the other captain with threads of darkness. The black goo rises and suffocates him, pulling the man into its dark domain. And then the enemy captain vanishes completely as if he never existed. Alone in the darkness, he wonders what happened and where he had ended up. The darkness strips away all his senses, sending Maru into a total panic. He rubs his eyes, feeling his entire body numb and lifeless. Meanwhile, the enemy captain also doesn't understand what's happening to him. Suddenly, Eden emerges from the shadows and attacks him from behind, catching him by surprise. He squeezes the captain's neck hard, who gasps for air and starts to drool. Tears stream from the man's eyes as he's unable to react to Eden's attack. Powerless, the captain collapses to the ground, completely defeated and out of the fight. Back in reality, Maru shivers from the cold, feeling a strange, empty sensation. He bites his own arm, desperate and pleading for help to escape the nightmare. But Go grabs him, firmly telling him to stop it right now. With his dark hands, the captain throws Maru to the ground, breaking eye contact. Then he rips out his own eye to complete his ability and places them back in his face. The darkness then spreads through the room, and the captain's power dissipates into the air. With the power broken, the captain lifts his head, feeling immediate relief. Everyone else is on the floor, completely unconscious. The captain approaches Maru, noticing the yellow dust finally vanished. His colleagues get up and he tells them they managed to hold on until the end. He then turns and asks why they didn't tell him about Maru's power. With an angry look, he says they must be tired of their jobs. Chana lowers her head and apologizes, admitting they were wrong to hide it. She asks if the captain thinks he can handle the other team alone now, but he says no, as the situation had already gone way too far. The scene shifts to a large building showing the special agents' headquarters in an interrogation room. Several agents were watching Maru-han from a distance. He was strapped to a chair, handcuffed, and watched like a dangerous criminal. With his head down, he wondered what would happen to him after all this. Meanwhile, in a luxurious meeting room, an important decision was being made. The headquarters directors were discussing Maru's future and the incident with the other team. Vice Director Yong announces that from now on, they will handle Maru-han. But Captain Go refuses, saying they couldn't do such a thing. Yong gets angry, reminding him that Maru creates yellow dust, which makes him dangerous. Slamming her hand on the table, she yells, asking what they would do if he used his power. But Go calms her down, explaining the incident only happened because of the attack. He then blames the director, reminding him that he knew the enemy captain was rotten. Director Il Dujong becomes thoughtful, as he was the one who gave the psychopath a team. Young-eun tries to defend the director, but he cuts her off, saying it was fine. Director Ji Won-yoon then says that character doesn't matter much in the special service. The director says it doesn't matter if the captain is a psychopath because he's useful in a fight. And with a smile, he taunts Deok-min, saying at least he doesn't run from a fight. Go retorts that the same applies to Maru, who is also essential. He adds that these two can keep an eye on Maru, surprising everyone. The director then asks if he will take responsibility if Maru loses control. Deok-min agrees without hesitation and gets up to leave the boring meeting. But the director asks Eden to stay, as there were more matters to discuss. Eden hesitates but eventually agrees and stays behind as the others leave. Ji Won-yoon looks at the director, her expression showing her concern for him. Outside, the team reunites with Maru, who has been released from interrogation. He desperately asks what happened and why Deok-min was wearing that tie. The captain informs them that the three of them will be on probation with a pay cut. Maru starts to cry, lamenting the cut to his already small salary. He continues, saying they got off the hook this time, but there won't be a next time. Director Jong was watching everything, and Eden realizes he's more frightening than he looks. Back in the room, Ildu asks what they would do if Maru lost control again. And with a serious look, he questions if Eden would have the courage to eliminate his colleague. Eden is shocked by the request, staring at his father with a look of rage, but then he starts to laugh, mockingly asking if he was serious. He says it's a joke, and that after 20 years, this was all he had to say. At that, his father orders him to sit down, warning him it was an order from his director. The director then explains that Maru-han can no longer be seen as a normal knucklist. Because a human who creates his own yellow dust is no different from a true knuckle, the scene changes. And Ildu concludes that Maru could very well be their enemy. The scene opens on the building where Maru-han is currently living. He realizes what it means to be watched, and he grows desperate. His place is a mess, and he thinks that even the dorms weren't this dirty. Then he opens a door and finally finds the person who was there. Suddenly, Dutchman shows up and tells Maru he'll be living with him. Maru is terrified, wondering why the guy has to be shirtless. Angry, he kicks the man, yelling at him to at least put on some pants. But the man grabs him and says they'll be working and hanging out together all the time. The scene changes, taking us to the special public service office. At work, Maru feels someone insistently poking his head from behind. He turns around with a forced smile, asking how he can help. Then Ji-won-yoon threatens him, telling him not to release any dust in the office. Yoseok explains to the others that Maru releases dust when he's stressed. Furious, he stands up and shouts, asking who put him in this situation. In the end, he just sits back down, letting out a long sigh of frustration. Lee Bok-kim notices what happened and asks if that was dust, making Maru tense up. Just then, the muscular colleague lunges forward and grabs his face, yelling for him to open his mouth. He forces Maru's mouth open, asking if he releases yellow dust when he sighs. Annoyed, Maru walks away, complaining that he can't even breathe without causing a panic. In the hallway, he runs into Eden Seonwoo, who thinks Maru is no different from Anacle. With a cold gaze, Eden concludes that Maru might as well be an enemy. Maru turns around with a disgusted look, still reeling from the earlier commotion. Then he finally snaps, yelling and asking if Eden wants to fight him too. But Eden coldly replies that he doesn't even think about him, leaving Maru in shock. He finds that strange and wonders if Eden is okay since he always provokes him. Fed up with everything, Maru turns around once more, ready to yell at everyone there. But he's interrupted by the arrival of Officer Chana Kong with a new recruit. Chana turns to the rookie, telling him to let her know if he has any questions. Suddenly, she approaches Maru and asks to see his eyes, surprising him. He gets all flustered, but assures her that he won't release any dust. Chana tells him not to take how the team is acting personally. She says it's because they can't protect him if that happens again. Maru feels awkward with her touch, but replies that he understands the situation. The scene cuts to the empty office with Maru working alone at his desk. He leans back in his chair, complaining that he's now stuck in the office. Meanwhile, the printer starts running, printing out several documents. As he picks up the papers, he understands what the captain meant by not letting it happen again. Suddenly, hears a noise and turns around, realizing he's no longer alone. Just then, Namble and Nero enter the office, looking anything but friendly. Confused, Maru turns and asks who they are, not understanding the unexpected visit. But without warning, Namble lunges at him, ready to attack. And with a brutal punch, he lands a solid hit on Maru's face, who had no time to react. The impact is so strong, it sends him flying backwards, scattering papers everywhere. Namble then grabs him by the collar, yelling for him to show the yellow dust. With his nose bleeding, Maru is in shock. He remembers Chana's words and thinks that he can't let that happen again. Namble threatens him, telling him to transform now or he'll mess up his face. But in a surprise move, Nero lands a powerful kick right in Namble's face. The guy passes out instantly and falls to the floor, leaving his partner completely shocked. Then Nero approaches and apologizes for his companion's lack of manners. He then introduces himself, saying that he and Namble came from the Seoul headquarters. Tired, Maru asks if they came all this way just to test his abilities. Nero says yes, but explains that Namble came because he's actually a huge fan. Namble gets up, all excited, saying he was dying to meet King Maru. Maru is completely confused, wondering where that weird nickname came from. Namble says his yellow dust is better than the director's. One of them gives a thumbs up, saying he's the best knackleist of all. He's in complete shock, wondering if he really was the best. The scene changes and we see Maru leaving work, still thinking about what happened. On his way, he spots the rookie, Woo-ju, and notices something very strange about him. Being stared at, Woo-ju shrinks back and asks if something is wrong. The scene shifts to a mountain, showing a beautiful orange sunset. In the middle of the forest, Maru is trying to fix a piece of communication equipment. He's getting really frustrated because the machine just won't turn on. Just then, Woo-ju confesses that he was the one who broke it but was afraid to tell the team. Maru tries to calm him down, saying their team isn't like that and that everyone makes mistakes. But inwardly, he doubts that a little as the rookie thanks him for the support. Woo-ju then tells him not to be afraid of releasing yellow dust around him. Maru plays dumb, asking what the hell he's talking about. But the rookie points to the ground, showing that he was already creating dust without noticing. Realizing this, Maru turns quickly, surprised by his own ability. And suddenly, a strange creature emerges from the bushes, startling them both. Wuju panics, saying that because of him, headquarters won't get the alert. But Maru calms him down, saying it's just a level 1 dust monster. With that, he remembers the compliment and rushes towards the monster, declaring himself King Maru. Without hesitation, he charges at the creature and prepares to bite it mercilessly. With a brutal bite, he tears a chunk out of the dust monster's neck. He thinks that this is the fastest way to finish off a level 1 knuckle. With the monster defeated on the ground, he wipes his mouth, satisfied with the result. Wuju is impressed and claps, saying that he was super fast, but then Maru realizes something is wrong as the monster's body begins to crack. Suddenly, the creature's back splits open with a terrifying sound. He's completely confused as he thought he had killed the thing for good. And from inside the old body, a new larger form begins to emerge. The new monster was much stronger, revealing its chest full of marks. Maru is terrified to see the knuckle evolve to level 2 right in front of him. Maru pants, wondering what the hell was happening. He wipes his mouth, completely shocked and trying to process the situation. Meanwhile, the monster walks toward him, getting stronger and stronger. Uju panics, saying that judging by the dust, it was now a level 5 monster. He then announces he'll contact the others and runs off, desperate for help. But Maru sees the danger and yells, warning him to watch out for the monster behind him. The creature charges at an absurd speed, flying toward Wuju to attack. In the blink of an eye, the monster is in front of him, winding up a powerful punch. But suddenly, he unleashes his poison power, blocking the knuckle's attack. The creature screams in pain from the impact, its chest completely destroyed. Maru is in shock, realizing the monster was changing form again. He understands that the knuckle turns into a cocoon when it takes fatal damage. And right in front of him, the stone cocoon begins to crack, revealing its new form. The shell breaks, and from inside emerges an even stronger, more muscular creature. Maru finally realizes this was a rare evolutionary type knuckle. Wuju notes that the monster is already at level 6, making Maru tense up. He thinks about level 6, but then notices an important detail about the monster. The bubbles on the creature's chest burst with each evolution, and he sees the pattern. From this, he realizes the knuckle's final form could reach a terrifying level 10. He decides the situation is too dangerous and that he needs to get Wuju out of there. So Maru says he'll distract the monster, telling him to get the rest of the team. But Wuju becomes desperate, saying he can't fight a level 6 alone. With a confident smile, Maru calms him down, saying he's stronger than he looks. Wuju runs off shouting his name as Maru turns to face the monster head-on. He moves forward, thinking that because he ate the knuckle's flesh, something inside him has changed. Now if he's fatally wounded, he'll also become much stronger just like the monster. He leaps and prepares a powerful punch, concentrating energy in his right hand. But the monster dodges with agility and Maru realizes it's gotten even faster. With no time to react, he's hit with a brutal blow to the stomach. On the ground, he feels the pain and realizes the creature has also become much stronger. Lying on the ground, he realizes he needs to evolve if he wants to win this fight for good. But the creature attacks him again, a blow that sends him flying violently. He feels all his bones breaking and knows it was a fatal wound. But to his surprise, he looks at his chest and wonders why he isn't evolving. Then he realizes he's healing too fast to activate the knuckle's power. With the monster ready to strike, he understands there's only one way out. Angrily, he gets up and yells, telling the bastard to finish him off. The knuckle obeys, preparing an energy attack that looks like the final blow. But Wuju comes running back, shouting for him to be careful, but Maru tells him to stay away. Ignoring the warning, the rookie spits a strange green liquid at the monster. The venom hits the creature's back, which begins to smoke on contact. Wuju watches intently, hoping his attack will have some effect. But to his despair, the monster turns slowly without a single scratch. He's shocked to see that his venom had no effect on the creature. And without wasting a moment, the knuckle lands a devastating punch right in the rookie's face. Furious, the monster begins to mercilessly beat the rookie with a flurry of punches. Wuju's face is completely destroyed by the blows, blood gushing everywhere. Seeing this, Maru lunges forward and grabs the monster from behind, ready to strike. With a look of pure rage, he bites the creature with all his might. He rips off a piece of the monster, which screams in pain from the surprise attack. The creature backs away, feeling the pain of the bite, its body covered in blood. Maru then rushes to help the rookie, worriedly asking if he's okay. He doesn't understand and asks Wuju why he didn't go down the mountain. The rookie blames himself, saying he couldn't run away because he's too cowardly and timid. Even injured, he tells Maru to escape and get help, not wanting to be a burden. But Wuju faints, and Maru realizes his healing is slow, and he can't abandon him. He understands he can't call for backup and needs to handle this alone. With that, he prepares to fight, taking off his tie and facing the knackle. The monster petrifies, and Maru notes there are only 3 evolutions left. Determined, he charges and punches the monster, knowing he can't let it reach level 10. He thinks he needs to destroy the monster before it can break out of its cocoon. With a flurry of punches, he finally manages to break the stone's shell. But inside, he finds a bizarre mass of flesh that is still writhing. Seeing this, Maru realizes the creature was still in the middle of its evolution. So he decides to eat the core, thinking that would leave only 2 evolutions. But the monster attacks him with a blow that pierces straight through his chest. From the violent impact, he spits up a lot of blood, feeling the pain of the wound. Maru falls to the ground with a huge hole in his chest, seemingly at his end. Then, the newly evolved knackle stands up, observing the damage it has just caused. But suddenly, Maru's body also begins to petrify, just like the monster's. He looks at his hand and smiles, having finally managed to start evolving. But the knackle gives no quarter and grabs him by the face with immense force. The creature lifts him into the air, preparing to finish him off once and for all. The monster then throws Maru's petrified body far away. Even with skin of stone, he feels the impact and his face begins to crack. Then the creature ignores him and charges with full force toward Wuju, who was running away. Seeing this, Maru panics as he watches the knackle head toward Wuju. The impact sends Maru's body flying, causing a huge explosion. Already petrified, he slides down a ravine, slamming hard into a tree. His stone head begins to crack, showing that the evolution is complete. And suddenly, the shell shatters, and he emerges from within, breathless and renewed. Covered in sweat, he focuses on the monster that was still chasing poor Wuju. He yells for Officer Kim to hang on and starts running desperately to save him. With the adrenaline pumping, he realizes he's much faster after the evolution. He believes that with this new speed, he might be able to get there in time to help. But when he arrives, all he finds are the officer's belongings scattered on the ground. Confused, he looks everywhere as the dust and the knackle have simply vanished. He turns around completely lost and wonders where the hell they went. Just then, his phone starts vibrating in his pocket, drawing his attention to the device. Looking at the map, he sees the signal has moved to zone 128 far away. And right after, he gets an unexpected call from his team's captain. On the other end, Captain Diekman asks if he saw the level 7 alert. Maru answers the phone, trying to warn him that there's something important the captain needs to know. But the captain cuts him off, telling him to just listen and not to leave his house under any circumstances. He's furious. The captain hung up on him, and he was already out here in the forest. But he figures that with the alert, the team will come, and now he just needs to find Wuju. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a nacho siren coming from the middle of the woods. He immediately turns toward the noise, trying to pinpoint its source. And when he gets there, he finds Officer Kim on the ground, seemingly unconscious. He approaches the body and turns it over, worriedly asking if he's badly hurt. But to his horror, all he sees is a bloody hand on the ground. The rookie's body was completely mangled, lying in a pool of blood. He's in shock, unable to believe what he's seeing, completely paralyzed. Desperate, he grabs the body and screams that he needs yellow dust now. He begs Wuju to open his eyes, pleading for him not to die in his arms. With his face covered in blood, the rookie no longer seems to react to his shouts. And without strength, Wuju's hand falls to the ground, signaling it's too late. Devastated, Maru embraces Wuju's lifeless body in a moment of pure anguish. With an empty gaze, his expression fills with a silent, dark rage. Using his torn shirt, he covers Wuju's body as a final farewell. Now, shirtless and with his body scarred, he exudes an aura of vengeance. Meanwhile, someone is approaching the area, rushing up the mountain. It was Chana Kong who reports on the phone that she's already at the foot of the mountain. In the car, the captain replies that he's on his way to assist with the mission. But suddenly, the alert on his phone escalates to level 9, sending him into a panic. He warns Chana not to fight alone under any circumstances and to wait for him. Just then, a strong tremor shakes the forest, catching Chana by surprise. In the city, residents look towards the mountain, wondering if it was an earthquake. But the alert rises to level 10, and she realizes it's because of the yellow dust. The captain despairs as a level 10 knuckle has appeared on Manhwa Island. At the office, the team panics. A disaster will happen if they don't stop the monster. In another car, Eden Sienwa yells at the driver to step on it and go faster. But as luck would have it, they hit a red light, getting stuck in city traffic. Meanwhile, Chana runs through the woods, thinking she has no time to wait for backup. She has to stop the nature before it reaches a populated area. Suddenly, she stops running, sensing a presence right in front of her. Through the dust, she spots a silhouette and thinks she's finally found the creature. But it's actually Maru who appears, leaving her completely surprised. He yells desperately, telling her to stay away and go back to the city right now. Chana is confused and asks what he's talking about, and when he got there, Maru then approaches, insisting that she turn back and leave. He shouts that he will fight the monster and that her only option is to run, but she calms him down, asking him to explain why she should run away. Maru then explains that this is the final phase of the powerful evolving knuckle. It sinks in, and she finally understands the gravity of the situation they're facing. A cloud of dust covers everything, making a strange noise as it spreads through the forest. Then a dark figure starts to appear through the smoke, revealing a very sinister presence. The Nacho monster finally reveals itself completely, showing off a muscular, all-white body. But then Chana grabs Maru and asks if he's been fighting that creature alone this whole time. He grips a piece of wood tightly and declares that killing this thing is his sole responsibility. Then the boy raises the stake high, leaving his partner completely confused about what's happening. Quickly, she tries to stop him as Maru explains that he ate the evolving monster. He then explains his crazy plan, saying he will also evolve if he gets injured like this. Chana is shocked and starts to think that his behavior has been very strange from the start. She tries to convince him to hold on, asking them to wait for the rest of the team to arrive. But the protagonist doesn't even listen, insisting he doesn't need anyone's help right now. At this, the girl loses her patience and screams, asking if he's gone crazy and wants to kill himself. The boy just raises his arm resolutely and states that he doesn't care at all if he dies. Suddenly, he plunges the wood into his own chest, sending blood spraying everywhere. Chana ends up covered in blood, screaming in despair at his bizarre action. Maru falls to his knees while Chana watches, not knowing how to react. Then a huge curtain of dust rises again, hiding what's happening in the forest. The girl is left in total shock, unable to believe the madness she just witnessed. She looks at the fallen bodies and realizes that the boy has repeated this sacrifice several times. But the biggest question is how he managed to drive that stake through his own heart. Suddenly, the knuckle monster appears behind her, but Chana prepares to strike back quickly. But Maru grabs the knuckle's arm, stopping the punch. He then gets up facing the enemy, showing he still has the strength to keep fighting. And Maru starts to squeeze the knuckle's fist even harder. He makes a rough move and rips the knuckle's arm off. Then his expression changes completely, his gaze becoming bizarre and blood-filled. But he quickly lunges forward and grabs the knuckle's neck, trying to finish the monster right there. The creature raises its arm in fury, preparing a punch charged with its full power. Then the villain smashes Maru into the ground with a blow so powerful it makes everything shake. The ground shatters from the impact, opening a giant crater in the middle of the battle. Maru ends up buried under the rubble, struggling to breathe after the brutal impact. The monster then flexes its muscles with fury, showing it's ready to finish the job. He tries to break free from the suffocating grip, but his throat is crushed by the enemy's heavy hand. But then the knuckle lets out a terrifying roar. Keeping the protagonist pinned at the bottom of the giant crater, Diokman spots a covered body and tries to figure out what's going on in that part of the forest. Suddenly, a massive boom echoes through the area, putting the young man on high alert. Then Chana notices something has changed. She feels a sinister energy coming straight from her partner. She remembers the Maru she used to know, realizing the guy in front of her seems like a different person. But then the protagonist lands a devastating punch, unleashing all his fury on the white monster. The creature staggers back from the blow, completely destabilized by such brute force. Without letting up, Maru leaps into the air, preparing to come down hard on the enemy. Chana notices his completely blank face, wondering what happened to his mind. But Maru pays no mind and prepares another attack, channeling all his energy into a precise move. Then, the monster's arm begins to regenerate. Maru attacks with incredible speed, giving Knuckle no chance to retaliate. With his fist glowing, he clenches his hand tightly, concentrating all his power into a single point. Right after, he unleashes a devastating final blow, sending Maru flying. A massive shockwave spreads out, sweeping through the entire forest from the impact. A huge explosion destroys several trees, kicking up dust and rocks everywhere. Soon after, another massive blast occurs, making the earth tremble from the violent impact. Chana tries to move forward, but Dukman grabs her arm firmly, stopping her from jumping into the chaos. He then shouts that no one stands a chance against it, as he doesn't want to see any more agents get hurt. Chana can't believe what the captain is saying, feeling that something is very wrong here. He squeezes her shoulder with deep concern, showing that the situation is spiraling completely out of control. Diakman wonders why Maru showed up to the fight, since he had ordered the young man to stay home. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to an imposing building where the higher-ups are discussing the situation. But Vice Director Yong-un screams in desperation upon learning that a level 10 monster is now destroying everything. We are then informed that the Incheon Command has already dispatched several officers to handle the situation. Commander Gwamak Ji appears in her office, deep in thought, analyzing reports to decide the team's next move. The Vice Director continues to give orders for everyone to be ready in case the agents in the field can't handle the pressure. Then Director Il Du Jong relaxes while reading the news, remarking that it's been a while since a monster like this appeared. The Vice Director recalls that the entire mountain team was killed, leaving many civilian casualties in that tragedy. But the Director tells her to calm down, assuring her that Captain Go will handle it. He continues speaking with a smile on his face, showing his complete trust in the people on site. Just then, Maru rises from the rubble, emerging from the crater with his gaze completely fixed on the fight. He then starts running at high speed, kicking up dirt as he charges straight for the enemy. The captain watches, breaking out in a cold sweat, not understanding what the young man is trying to do. Suddenly, the hero rushes forward, ignoring the warnings to stop his attack immediately. He leaps high towards the monster, preparing a physical blow to end it all. Still in the air, the young man faces the creature head-on, aiming a powerful punch at its face. But then they both throw heavy punches at the same time, creating a shockwave that erupts everywhere. Blood splatters everywhere from the impact, showing that someone was severely injured. And Maru loses his arm in the impact, but Maru traps Knuckle with his legs. The captain decides he needs to intervene right now, realizing the situation has gone too far. Then Maru readies his injured arm for something, and Maru shoves his wounded arm right into Knuckle's mouth. We're shown that his body is healing quickly with hot steam escaping his mouth. The deep wound closes in an instant, revealing his incredible regeneration power. But Maru quickly continues his frantic attack, sending the monster's blood flying with great force. The captain is left breathless, unable to believe the young man just destroyed Knuckle's skull. With the creature sprawled on the ground, headless, the protagonist shows he's not messing around. Then Maru bites the enemy's neck with fury, acting like a true predator. He then tears out a huge chunk of the monster's flesh, splattering blood all over the field. But then Chana announces that it's finally over as Knuckle can no longer heal itself. Even so, the young man stays on top of the body, preparing his fist for the final blow. Maru stares intently at what's left of the villain, his face stained from the intense battle. He then unleashes a barrage of brutal punches, making sure that thing will never get up again. Captain Go desperately screams for the young man to stop, seeing he has completely lost control in the fight. But he stands firm in the pool of blood, ignoring every command. Just then, Chana appears, wielding her sharp sword, and delivers the final blow to ensure the creature is finished. The dust settles, revealing the scene of destruction as the protagonist remains on top of the monster's remains. He looks down at his own red-covered hands, feeling the weight of what he has just done. Suddenly, the girl hugs him and tells him to stop, letting him know that it's all finally over. Soon after, the rest of the team comes running to the scene, wanting to know if the danger has really passed. Eden asks if the two of them managed to take down the target in disbelief at the state they're in. But the captain explains that Maru handled it all by himself, leaving everyone stunned by the news. The young man is left speechless and utterly shocked, wondering how it could be possible to defeat a level 10 alone. The scene focuses on the hero's stained face, as he feels the exhaustion and sadness of his victory. The scene then changes to a silent, imposing building where everyone gathers for a difficult moment. A portrait of Wu Ju appears surrounded by flowers, a reminder of the high price they paid on that mission. Several people are kneeling and crying on the floor, grieving deeply for the loss of someone so beloved. Finally, the entire team stands dressed in mourning, paying one last tribute to their fallen friend. Young Yoseok appears looking very thoughtful, feeling the heavy atmosphere of the funeral. A moment later, Chana approaches him asking if he's really feeling okay. But Captain Go, still sitting on the floor, says that no one ever gets used to this. The young woman leans against the wall and asks how they dealt with Wu Ju's death. The man sighs deeply, explaining that it was an accident, but at least they had a body. With that, they begin to walk down the hallway, realizing the island is no longer safe. Chana is worried about the protagonist's disappearance, asking if Maru still isn't answering his calls. Meanwhile, we see his ID badge on the table as the captain confirms his resignation. But the girl insists on trying to talk, asking for some time to speak with him. Captain Go keeps walking and states with certainty that the young man won't go back on his decision. He then recalls what he experienced at the Soul Barracks when a level 10 monster attacked. The man reveals he was the only survivor as that creature killed almost his entire team. His footsteps echo through the empty hallway of the building as he carries the weight of these bad memories. Diakman then comments on watching his friends die, leaving his partner deeply shaken by the story. The scene changes to Maru's messy room where he sleeps surrounded by trash and deep loneliness. Maru is sprawled on the bed trying to rest, but the atmosphere in the room starts to feel strange. A moment later, a purple rift opens in the wall, releasing a sinister smoke that fills the space. And suddenly, a blood-soaked hand emerges from the purple portal.